that we temporarily table the approval of the minutes.
I would so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, because I had questions on those too.
Yeah, so we're just gonna,
All of them?
yeah. Okay, and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So, public comments. Trish. I did. I said welcome.
We have Lynn first, then or Jill. Jill Carlson.
And you all know who come here every board meeting that we limit our public comments to 3 minutes and that the board members don't engage, yeah.
Yes, Madam President, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm speaking tonight in tribute to Nicole Berzin, formerly an instructional designer with our online teaching and learning department. Nicole touched everyone she worked with at SFCC with her compassion, sense of humor, and caring. She embodied the tenets of demonopolizing knowledge to create real, meaningful, and sustainable impacts in higher education and beyond. Nicole was passionate about teaching, committed to finding the best ways to help others learn, and fascinated by all of the amazing new technologies in learning science. She was constantly energized by learning new things, by collaboration, and looked for opportunities to do that across our campus. Nicole was a positive spirit who brought light and creativity to every interaction. She was a gem to work with and was always looking for a new challenge. She was passionate about not doing for people what she could teach them to do for themselves, about building their skills and becoming even better at what they do as educators because of these new skills. We wanted to ensure that Nicole is memorialized in the public record of the college as an exemplary employee who touched so many of us on campus. On August 9th of this year, Nicole was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and on September 16th, Nicole lost her brief battle. She died peacefully, surrounded by her sisters and the prayers of her friends. She will be sorely missed. We have established a memorial book so that SFCC employees can memorialize their memories, and that book will be sent to her sisters Laura and Lynn. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next we have Edward Oliphant. Did I say your name right?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, members of the public. Thank you for your time. I'm here to speak in support of the Emergency Medical Services Institute and the allied health in general. Before I came to school here, I was working in low-wage, low-skilled customer service work downtown in Santa Fe, and I was not very happy. In August of 2015, I was accepted into the paramedic program here at the EMSI. And since 2016 in July, I've been a paramedic for the City of Santa Fe Fire Department, and I'm very happy with my job. I just hope you guys know just how important the work being done in EMSI is. I went from having a job to a career that feeds my family, that sends me home fulfilled with my work every day, and that fills me up with pride. More than that, I believe in it so much that now I'm teaching as an adjunct faculty here, so I drank the Kool-Aid. You don't want to have to meet any of the graduates of the EMSI. That's a bad day for you. You don't want to have to call 911. You don't want to have to go to the emergency room. But I truly believe whenever I go and I turn over patients and I see students and graduates from this program in the emergency room and on our ambulances, that there's nobody better to answer that call. And I truly believe that the work being done there is very important, not just for me personally and what it's done for my life, but also for what it does for this community. So I just urge you to continue to support that program. They're doing amazing stuff over there, and they need all the help they can get from you guys. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for supporting EMSI and Allied Health. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Than
Next is Marcy. And I'm going to let you say your last names, please. Please state your name at the mic.
Okay. I'm Marcy Iannarino. It's okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Governing Board, President Cervantes. I am speaking tonight as the president of Santa Fe Community College's Faculty Union, SFCC AAUP. Thank you for hearing us tonight. We're here in solidarity this evening with community, alumni, friends, family, and colleagues to support a mutually beneficial negotiation process, and as a result, a mutually beneficial product. We're here in solidarity because we believe that a college in which all components are aware of their interdependence, of the usefulness of communication among ourselves, and of the force of joint action, we will enjoy increased capacity to solve educational problems. We are professionals, and we believe you are as well. We are also earnest, and we expect stability that comes from the meaningful exploration of issues together. But to be honest, this evening we are disappointed. After recent developments in our negotiation process, we are left with questions about the authenticity of the administration's desire to view the union as a mechanism for shared solutions to real, truly legitimate, and truly shared concerns. But we feel it's important to note that we have not given up. We continue to believe, as we have from the beginning, that this is only the start of a chapter in our new relationship. And if we can let go of the idea of holding on to power just for the sake of power, then we can truly listen and we can truly hear one another. And then we can take this as an opportunity to be equally engaged and accountable to our vision for this college's future. And I thank you so very much for your service. And I know that you care just as much as we do about our students, and that we, in all mutual respect, hope that you know how important we see your role. So thank you.
Thank you.
Carla Martinez.
Good afternoon. My name is Carla Martinez Talavera. I am the lab and clinical coordinator for the dental program here at SFCC, and I am here to talk about why it's such a great program. I actually graduated from the program back in 2008, 10 years ago. I got hired right away as a dental assistant, and I feel like Amna, who's now the director, she prepared me so well, and I did so well in my clinicals that that's how I got hired right away. And I had the privilege of teaching students while I worked in a private office. So I was getting students while I was working. And then I got lucky enough to get hired here as the lab and clinical coordinator, and I've been doing that since 2015. And it has been the most gratifying job I've ever had. I feel like I have made a difference in these students' lives. I feel like I'm supporting them because I got the same from when I was in the program. I feel like my family is very proud of me for what I've accomplished, and now I feel like I'm giving back, and I can't thank Amna enough for the support that I got. I took one semester at UNM right out of high school, and I was so stressed out. I was homesick. It was a horrible experience. But when I came here, I felt like I had a lot of support. I had a family, and that's why I was so successful, and I am so happy to be here and to be a part of SFCC community.
Thank you.
Brent Jarrett.
No? Brent? Okay, who's next?
David Koss.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members, Madam President. It's nice to have a chair. We always make them stand at City Hall. So, and we only give them 3 minutes also, but they got to stand. So this is really great. And I haven't done this for a while, but I'm very happy to be here tonight to talk about collective bargaining here at the community college. My professora invited me, and I couldn't say no. And you know, this spring I got an associate in Spanish degree from the community college, and I'm so very, very proud of this institution. And yeah, I wish I could say I was the oldest guy in class, but I wasn't. But it was a wonderful experience, and the professors that I had were so great. And President Grisham told me to make sure I graduate because then the college gets more money.
Right.
So I did, and I'm just really tickled. And I think you guys know, because we all worked together when I was mayor, how important this community college is to all of Santa Fe. It's important to our economy. It's important to our young people. It gives hope to young people that they can find a job and a career in Santa Fe, and the community college is so important to that. And so I want to thank you for your leadership in that. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was the importance of unions in Santa Fe. And there's an old newspaper picture of me when I had dark hair and not such a large bald spot, saying that Santa Fe is a union town. And that was for the nurses and the healthcare workers at Christus St. Vincent. And I've been just proud of that institution, that they still have a union there and they still have a contract there. And it's important to our history, and it's important to who we are as a community that supports immigrant rights, that supports a living wage, and should also support unions, and has for the 65 years that I've lived around here. So I think that's a critical role, and I think you're in a leadership role at this community college, which is so important to all of us. I want to ask you to use your leadership as the board here at the community college, our community college. Be pro-union. Make sure that management negotiates a fair contract with all these people that I think are doing a real courageous thing, coming out holding picket signs and stuff. It always takes a little bit of courage to do that. And I love to see that in Santa Fe. So when my old professor called, I said, yeah, I'll come and I'll talk. And I don't know what they're hung up on or what the bargaining issues are. I did bargaining for 25 years, both as management and union. And I always used to finish negotiations saying I'd rather take a beating with a stick than do that again. But it is so important. It is so important that Santa Fe, that the flagship educational institution for our community, be pro-union. And what I want to ask you as board members to do is use your leadership to be pro-union. And it won't hurt your management or your administration to have a good union contract. It'll actually help everybody. It'll be consistent with what kind of city and community we are, and it'll be consistent with the history of Santa Fe and how proud we are of our labor heritage and our working people here in this town. So thank you very much. Thanks for your work. And Jack will never be too old to go to meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else?
Carol Chavez Hunt.
Good evening, Madam Chair, President Cervantes. Buenas tardes, board members. First of all, I'm very thankful to be here and to have the opportunity to speak. I was counting the years of how long I've been a faculty in northern New Mexico, and I've actually been teaching Spanish for 31 years and Portuguese for the last 12 of those years. I come from a long heritage of Spanish culture here in New Mexico. I believe firmly in our culture and especially in our college. And I want to start by saying that I believe that every employee of Santa Fe Community College, whether that be staff, administrators, adjunct faculty, or full-time faculty, Each one is my colleague and deserving of respect and professionalism at all times. I believe that we are all on the same team with the same mission. I believe that each person has a unique set of talents and gifts that they bring to the workplace. I believe that each person is worthy of being treated fairly and with integrity. I believe that Santa Fe Community College is at a critical juncture at which there needs to be significant change for a more positive and supportive work environment. I believe that in order to fulfill our mission, we need to work together to address critical concerns that have affected the greatest resource we have, each other. I believe that any step away from negotiation is a step in the wrong direction. I believe that the administration must continue to negotiate with faculty to arrive at a fair contract that honors the hard work, dedication, and commitment the faculty have shown, even in the face of great opposition and lack of support. I want to thank the union's negotiation team for the many hours of work they have put in to trying to create a fair and dignified contract. I want to say that through this process, I have come to admire greatly my colleagues as I've become more aware of just how hard each works, despite negative input, to continue to offer our students the excellent attention and service they deserve. Finally, I would like to say that no matter what happens, my passion in the classroom will never stop, regardless of whether we have that support or not, because that's why I've been there 31 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Liz, I can't read your last name. Corvio?
Thank you to our board, Madam Chair and President Cervantes, for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Liz Servio, and I have worked here at SFCC since September 2009 as full-time faculty teaching in the social sciences since 2014. I am also a union member. I'm here tonight to recognize and thank our SFCC AAUP negotiating team and respectfully request that the board recognizes the consistently heroic efforts of Jerry Trujillo, Laura Rosenberg, Bruno Gagnon, and Zuby Wilson to good faith bargain a first contract for SFCC and AAUP. These dedicated faculty have essentially donated countless hours crafting contract articles, preparing these articles for the negotiating table, meeting with administration's bargaining team, and bringing the results of these sessions back to union members with detailed documentation of the negotiating process. Our SFCC AAUP union is unremittingly committed to collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is, at its essence, reflective of our values and ethics as college faculty. As members of our communities in northern New Mexico, and as Americans, during this time of severe erosion of our rights as U.S. citizens, it is particularly important to be active members of a collaborative, cooperative, and productive alliance, one that reflects, represents, and requires fair and equal rights for all of its members. I ask the board tonight to require good faith bargaining from our SFCC administration in our first collective bargaining negotiation. I ask the board to support a mutually agreed upon CBA that ultimately supports our students and their success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Stephen DeGiulio, okay.
Good afternoon, friends. I'm glad I didn't speak first because some of my colleagues and friends have covered some of the important points that I am also concerned about, but I have two related concerns I'd just like to share with you. One is, I can't imagine how the board will be able to attract a candidate for president until we clean up our own act. And the main thing that remains is to settle the labor dispute with the union. The legal term is to negotiate in good faith. But good faith is not really a legal term primarily. It's a spiritual term. Good faith means be honest. Be honest with ourselves, which is the tough one. Be honest with everyone. Be empathetic. Listen, try and understand the other person's point of view and their situation, and be flexible enough so we can come out with a win-win situation. When you have, as we have had for 8 long months, an adversarial relationship instead of good faith bargaining, it doesn't matter who wins in the end. Everyone comes away hurt. Everyone comes away with resentments and grudges. And if we have candidates coming to this campus and they see this is our atmosphere, we won't get a candidate who wants the job for the right reasons. The right reasons is we have a tremendous amount of talent in this institution. We need an enabler to help us go forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That's it? Well, I want to thank all of you for coming tonight and expressing your views. The board certainly believes that management has been negotiating in good faith for the past 10 months, and we're going to continue with the processes that the law enables us to do, and I believe that we will come out with a good conclusion. And I don't believe anyone on this board is not supportive of unions and not supportive of the faculty and all the staff who work at the college. So thank you again for coming. Did you sign up? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you step out? Come on up. I think we called your name and you must have been.
I apologize if
Okay.
I didn't hear, but thank you for the opportunity. My name is Joe Trujillo. I grew up right behind the DeVargas Mall, street known as Fiesta Street. And I was there at a very early age, 1952. I've been in Santa Fe all my life. I had to leave Santa Fe to appreciate it. I traveled quite a bit with the federal government and with state government. Most recently, I am a small businessman. I have a daughter who graduated from this institution in 2010. She is now a respiratory therapist at St. Vincent's Hospital. I have 2 granddaughters who are also therapists. This is a great institution. I currently have a grandson attending this institution for the first year. My message is very simple. I support the unions. I think all of us here in this room will agree that the backbone of the middle class was attributed to the unions in the 1930s, the 40s, and 50s. Through their struggles, the middle class was born. In recent times, the middle class seems to be fading. Unions are important. I appeal to the board to encourage the administration to act in fairness, to be compassionate, to support the staff, because you have many professionals on board. Santa Fe is difficult. The wages are almost impossible to survive in this community. The cost of living is high. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else who maybe didn't? Okay. All right. Again, thank you all very much for coming. Okay. President's report.
Yes, and thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. We're going to begin with the Employees of the Month. And for the month of August, the Pass It Forward winner, let's see, Mariano Chavez of OIT nominated Cammie Barney with Safety and Security. And is either Mariano or Cammie here, present? No? Any comments from them? No? Okay, well, we congratulate Cammie and we thank Mariano for nominating her. Next, we have the WOW-gram, and Linda Ortiz with Safety and Security nominated Daniel Segura. We're also with Safety and Security. Are either of them here? Okay, well, let's give them both a hand then. All right. And congratulations to Cammie and Danielle also. So moving on with the interim president's report. Let me begin by saying that, we successfully, as we know, passed the local general obligation bond in February, and now we're moving forward in accomplishing the projects that are a part of that bond, that were a part of that bond election. To that end, a local bond advisory committee is assisting in the process to ensure that we deliver to the community the promises that we made, and the work is moving along very, very positively. Wi-Fi is installed and operational, and so everyone is able to utilize Wi-Fi and get the internet much more smoothly now. So thank you for that. Also, under the plant and operations and management section, we are very, very busy with the projects that are being funded by the local obligation bond. And we started with the fitness center and have made a lot of progress. It's the hub of what's going on. There are 21 water fountains that have been installed and that are all operational at the fitness center, so that everyone that's over exercising can easily find a water fountain and fill up their water bottles and stay hydrated. So that is good. Also, between Uta and Herman and all the staff in the fitness center, we've put together a plan that we've discussed at the local bond advisory committee meeting regarding the moving forward of addressing the projects. And I think I mentioned before that the majority of them are going to be addressed: the sanding of the gym floors, the installation of new flooring in the entryway and hallways, and new furniture. The majority of all that will be done right after graduation. We'll close the gym and the fitness center in order to begin the work. And as a matter of fact, just this week, fitness center faculty and staff were meeting with with Andrea from PUM and Henry and the design team that's putting together a coordinated look for the fitness center. So it's very exciting, and the plan is that everything will be installed and completed by the time that the spring semester begins, or really right after we come back from New Year's break. Yeah, during that break, the whole month will be dedicated to improving the fitness center and have a plan. So we're very excited. And then some of the other projects, we really, in terms of improvements college-wide, We had $1 million that was available. Of that, 500,000 came through in this first sale of bonds. And I tell you, that goes fast. That money goes fast. Quite a big chunk of it, $500,000 is what we had available. And so quite a large part of that is going to go towards the interior completion of the greenhouse. We had the exterior, but we had to do the interior, and a lot of other things like furniture, et cetera, that are part of the greenhouse. And yeah, the testing center, I have it on my list. We already completed the redesign and renovation and adding an extra room in the fitness center so that more testing can be done, and including external testing that comes in and generates revenue. And we did make some minor modifications for the Workforce Solutions office so that Workforce Solutions can be on campus and make more funds available to our students for training, to pursuing training programs at the COP. That is in the Career Services area. Anyway, the other thing too is we're planning to address and improve the ventilation in the woodworking area. So that's another of the projects that are the improving the college that the bond money is paying for. So moving on in my report, I did want to indicate that the internship program that was funded by Los Alamos that we're calling PILAS is reaching, for 31 students have been funded to do paid internships in the community. And one of those students was actually already hired by the company where they were doing the internship. And it's just been very successful. There's going to be a celebration luncheon plan on November 19th. And the foundation is matching the $40,000 that we received, so we're going to be able to continue with the program into the spring semester. And I just had to read you this one little comment from one of the businesses. It's been an absolute pleasure working with the folks at the Pilas program. Our intern, Jesus, has been a great asset to Wise Fool. He brings a fresh perspective to our design and marketing needs and is just all around lovely to work with. And Yael, our internship coordinator, the SFCC internship coordinator, has provided great support while bringing Jesus into the fold at Wise Fool. Thank you, Pilas. And they hired Jesus. He got a job there after he finished the internship. So it's been very successful. I ran into a faculty member yesterday in the hall, not the one who supervised Jesus, but she just raved about how the paid internship made a huge difference in the life of her student who was feeling very negative and very down about his self-confidence. And it gave him just enough to help him meet his basic needs. So I'm just thrilled that it's successful. I wanted to mention that Viva is moving forward. The students are using the fitness center. I think in the first 4 weeks, there were 123 distinct students that went in and used the fitness center, and that was as of about September 11th. So we'll have more data as it's reported to us. For the Diversity Advisory Committee and the Student Development Office developed a robust schedule of events for National Hispanic Heritage Month, and I believe that on your desk there is a schedule, or if not, I have it here and I'll pass it out. Sorry, there it is. And so we've had about 4 or 5 events thus far, and there's another 5 or 6 through October 15th. And one of them I mentioned to you is a homemade salsa tasting contest that if any of you want to enter, it will be October 3rd. One more of these. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, here's one. And so that is our salsa tasting contest. That's information about that. We've got quite a few entrants and have judging, and we'll have the Mariachi Buenaventura on October 3rd. So it's a fun month, and also our faculty have participated in giving lectures. Ms. Carol Chavez Hunt gave a talk on the history of New Mexico Spanish, and Dr. Stephen Martinez will give one on October 2nd on Nuevo Mexicano veterans of the U.S. foreign wars and the political life of Nina Otero, women's suffrage. So, and Dr. Andrew Lovato also will have a presentation as well on Santa Fe Hispanic culture on October 9th. So it's a very rich array of programming, including lectures and musical entertainment and dancing, etc. I also wanted to mention that Dr. Steve Martinez spoke on September 18th, Constitution Day, on your constitutional rights, and that was well attended. And then also another faculty accomplishment, head of photography Will Wilson was featured in a Sunday CBS This Morning segment on a new exhibition in the Library of Congress. Wilson's work is featured, and it's called Not an Ostrich, and he wanted to say that Native Americans are still here, we're resurgent, we're doing exciting, creative, different things. I had the good fortune to attend the inaugural SBA Host Summit in Washington, D.C., and there were quite a few staff members that went to the conference, the America's SBDC Annual Conference, which was held at the same time as the Host Summit, and I got to know the exceptional SBDC staff who do great things that contribute to the economic development of the state and do it in a very cost-effective manner. I was particularly proud of Russell Wyrick, who talked about his work in providing resources and counseling for emerging businesses. He told about setting up in Raton a video advising opportunity. They wanted a full counselor in an office, and it was just so expensive to set it up. But instead, he put together a video counseling with online advice. It was one of the others. Approaches to do online, but the person just has to go and sit down, and the counselor gets it all going and starts it up. And Go Meeting or something like that it's called. Go-to meeting. Yes, that's what he uses, and it's very successful. Also wanted to mention that the New Mexico School for the Arts will be, and this one is not on the report because this just came up. It's going to have a exhibit here at our Visual Arts Gallery. And it's a great partnership. We're thrilled that they're going to come. 60 students are going to display their work, and there's a grand opening reception at the Visual Arts Gallery on the 28th, this Friday at 5:30. Very proud of that. The last thing I wanted to mention is that we had a very successful launching of the Santa Fe Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Network at SFCC on September 19th with the mayor. Dean Bustamante contributed significantly. And while I was in D.C., I met Jeffrey Lopez, who is the legislative assistant for Senator Udall, and he came that day because he knows how great our college is and he wanted a tour. So Dr. Bustamante gave him a tour after the ecosystem launch. And the rest of my report you have before you. Thank you very much.
Madam President. So we have the master's program update.
Madam Chair, board members, President Cervantes, thank you for your time. I will not take a lot of your time. I wrote some things down just to hand out because I know you all have a lot on your agenda. But I wanted to thank you. This is the beginning of our 9th year on this campus. I hope people have forgotten about us because when you have a lot of high school kids around, it's good if people don't remember that you're there. But one of the most important things for us is that we feel like we work here with the most incredible people, the staff at this college, the teachers who have been incredibly supportive of our students, the administration. We have had, I think, nothing that we could ever complain about. It's probably the best situation I've ever had, and I've worked in schools my whole life. So thank you for your part in that. We are incredibly fortunate. We've graduated 350 kids now. We just got our 6th grade of A in a row. We're one of 15 schools in the state, not just charters, but all schools who've managed that. And I really attribute that to students wanting to get into college courses so they can move on up. And we're really, really proud of them. We are going to next year have 40 ninth graders. We are finishing a space that was the old dirt room, so that we're going to be able to corral them a little bit as we get to know them. Most of the students who come to us know the culture of our school, and they come ready to work, but all it takes is 5 who don't, and they get noticed. So what we're going to work with is having them sort of corralled a little differently than the rest of the students for the first semester. We're going to do some project-based learning with them. What we've learned is a lot of our kids coming in at 10th grade have wasted a whole year already. And as a school that's graded on proficiency on tests, it's really hard to catch up. So we feel like to really be effective and to be able to get our students through degrees here or a certificate of academic transfer so they can go to UNM as a junior if that's what they choose to do, we really need that extra year. So it's one change for us. We're working and preparing for it right now. And we thank you so much for the support we get from everyone here.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so
you.
much. Congratulations on 6 years of A's. Okay, enrollment report.
Chair Siegel, board members, Dr. Cervantes. We are here to present the enrollment report, and I have given the most recent incarnation of that to you at the beginning of the meeting. You will see that we are down in head count 5.14%. It's a little better than it's been, which is a positive thing. Then you will see that in FTE and credit hours, we are down 8%. Part of, I think, what we're seeing there is while our head count is looking a little bit better, the students that we do have are not taking as many student credit hours. And I'm happy to sit for questions. I know that Marcos wants to give you an update on college fair season. And so
Why don't we hear that?
over to him.
Thank you very much, Margaret.
Did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Given
On now, yes.
regarding the reduced FTEs being greater than the head count, is that students moving from full-time to part-time?
It could be, not necessarily. It's just the students that we have taking fewer credit hours. So it depends on how many credit hours they have. It could move them from full-time to part-time. It could just be a decrease in their full-time load. It could be a decrease in their part-time load.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Board Member Gamble.
Thank you very much, Vice President Peters. Madam Chair, members of the board, and Madam President. The one thing that I just wanted to announce today that we are very excited to announce to the board and to everybody watching at home is that SFCC, the Office of Recruitment and Community Outreach and Marketing and Public Relations, is going to be hosting on Thursday, October 25th, our inaugural SFCC HEC Night Open House right here at Santa Fe Community College. The main area is going to be held in the campus center. It is a showcase of everything that is great about SFCC. This is an event that is open to the entire public. So if you're a dual credit student, if you're a high school student that's getting ready to graduate, if you're an adult looking for that second career or a lifelong learner, this is the event to come to. It is the must-see event of SFCC for the fall semester. Our labs will be open, so students will have the opportunity to see our medical sim labs, our Trades and Advanced Technology Center, our Fine Arts Building, our culinary, and more. We also will have, hopefully, And this is a challenge that I am posing to our faculty and our staff. I would love to see over 100 tables out in the campus center and outside in the courtyard, because the weather's still going to be nice and pretty, of some of our brightest faculty and staff representing our phenomenal programs. So we have a few RSVPs so far. We want more because we want to let our community know. We want to let our prospective students know everybody who is going to be here. So again, if we could even get help from everybody here to let all the folks that you know to pass the word on, because Santa Fe is word of mouth, that Thursday, October 25th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., free event, no need to RSVP. It is the SFCC and HEC open house night. Thank you.
Sometimes I feel like I need to be able to do a drum roll or something right before I hand the microphone to
Todd, did you want to say anything?
I'm just the muscle.
Okay, then I have a question. How many new students enrolled this semester that came from the Santa Fe Public Schools?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for that question. So this past year, we have had our largest class of matriculated high school students, the biggest that we've had in 5 years, so since 2013. So we're very pleased about that. That number is 267 high school matriculated seniors that came to SFCC straight out of high school for the first time.
And that's the largest since 2013?
Since 2013, as far as head count numbers go, correct, Madam Chair.
And do we know, since we're trying to keep this data for planning, do we know how many of them actually came out and visited the campus before or had a contact with someone from here, like you, or?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. That is a fantastic question. So while we do have our banner recruitment and we're able to enter the students' content information, and we do follow up with every single student that puts down that they would like some follow-up information, we don't have exact numbers on how they became students at SFCC. Chances are, though, what I am banking this on is our continued presence, both at Capitol High School once a week and at Santa Fe High School once a week. And not only that, but also our Capitol High School Junior and Senior Days and Santa Fe High School Junior and Senior Days at SFCC. And then also the many, many visits of tours that we have of students that come to see SFCC, and vice versa, us being there to speak to the students. And also, I think a thing that helped a lot was doing that FAFSA and acuplacer testing right there on site at Capitol High School, at Santa Fe High School, and we are actually very excited to report that we are going to be doing that again, but not just one time. We're going to be starting that actually now in October. We're going to continue into November, take a break in December and January, but then continue again in February, March, April, to make sure that we get as many students to complete the two most difficult parts of that new student checklist and get them confident and show them that SFCC is here for you and college really isn't that scary, Madam Chair.
Chair Siegel, members of the board, President Cervantes, I just want to add that we continue to collaborate with OPI and OIT in the establishing what in other industries is called a constituent relationship manager or system. We're calling it a student relationship management system. Your question is precisely what we hope the kind of this added sophistication will enable us to do. So right now we can measure those things for specific campaigns that involve mobile technologies. For example, at the open house, we will be setting up a geo-fenced program so every person on our campus will, their cell phone information will come to us, and we'll be able to deliver them individualized ads in the subsequent whatever, weeks or months. So we are on the verge of some pretty sophisticated stuff, but we are an advocate right now of some new technology in this student relationship management system that will help us be able to report these things a little bit more efficiently.
And just how many of those 265 students are on lottery scholarship, do we know?
I don't have that number for you, but I can get that.
Can you get that?
Yes, absolutely. Mhm. Unless, Yash, do you have that on the top of your head? Sometimes he does. 30 minutes, my goodness,
Oh,
okay.
Wow. Okay, other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, where am I? Oh, now is our allied health presentation.
Yes.
Good, we've been looking forward to this.
Chair Siegel, members of the board, President Cervantes, good evening, and thank you so much for this opportunity to give you an update on our allied programs. Before I begin, I would like to introduce the team that helped me put together this PowerPoint and who are here to also answer any questions that they might. So I'm asking, when I call your name, just please stand so you can be recognized briefly. My Director for Dental Health, Amna Nayer. And then over here to my right is Terry Tewart, Director of Nursing and Allied Health. And actually, I want to recognize the gentleman sitting next to her who, you know, it's hard to replace Patrick Nichols in the sim lab, but this is our newest full-time simulation technician, and we're very proud to have him, and he's been a great part of the team for, I think, since August 27th, and this is Michael Tewart. And then Director for our EMSI program is Sahej Khalsa. And then, of course, Ray Jetty, from our Director for our Medical Simulation Center. And then directly behind him is Rebecca Jeffs, Director for Respiratory Care. And another new face on campus, we have a temporary Director of Clinical Education, which is required for respiratory accreditation. And so we're trying to steal somebody from San Juan, and that's Jeff Wolf. We're delighted to have him join our team. And then next to Jeff is Yuri Finley, our Director for Medical Assisting and Phlebotomy. I just want to thank them all for being here in support of this presentation. I'm going to go rather quickly through the slides because there's a lot of them. I will highlight on the slides, but please feel free to stop me and ask any questions or make any comments, and my team and I will try to answer them. This first slide, I got to reposition myself, I'm sorry. This first slide is a snapshot, I think, of the diversity that represents all of our allied health programs. It's from a couple of years ago. It was a nursing pinning ceremony. I guess, do I have this? Should I? You want to do it? Okay. All right, go ahead and go to the next slide. So the next slide here, there are two slides that talk about all our programs and their status. I have in front of me a notebook of all the accreditation standards for each of the programs, and I actually gave one to Trish as well that I thought could live in her office. The links you see there to the standards are what we have in a manual for you all if you ever need to look at them. So I'm just going to start, go ahead and go back, Mason. I'm going to start with dental assisting. We have a national accreditation, and you see that we're fully accredited until our next visit, which is in 2024. And we have a certificate and an associate degree for that. The dental assisting certificate takes 3 semesters. Then we have a certificate, and I apologize for having the acronym and not spelling it out, but I'm going to see if I can impress Amna and get this right. AFTA stands for Expanded Functions Dental Auxiliary. And it is a certificate, and that it's overseen by the state. And when I asked Amna about our approval status, I guess we're approved until we hear otherwise. So, or they make changes at the state level.
Well, what is it?
Amna, do you want to come and describe it a little bit better than I could probably? Sure. Come speak into my microphone.
Expanded Function Dental Auxiliary Certificate Program is new in the state of New Mexico. It was approved by New Mexico Dental Board in 2014. That's when they approved our program. They went through the curriculum that I designed and they approved it with the little suggestions in there. These are the dental assistant and hygienist or other dental auxiliaries who are practicing since some years. They're already licensed people. They're coming back to school to get more high skills. So this particular expanded function allows them to do fillings. So the doctor is going to remove the cavity, prepare the thing, and the assistant or the hygienist with this certification will be able to do the filling. And they can do all kind of fillings. Like if you want me to define, I can do that. But so they have to go through another national level exam before they are able to do it. So first they complete our program, then they take the national exam, then they get their apprenticeship license, and they have to complete apprenticeship for 180 days. They come back to us, or they can do it at their own respective clinics, and they get foot license. And the salary, just for the information, goes up $3 to $5 an hour.
Wow. Now, does that mean they can actually do the drilling and the
No,
filling?
they don't do the
do the
prep
filling.
part. They only
Okay.
do the filling part.
Okay, okay. Oh, great.
I think the certificate is a really positive move in terms of working towards the community dental health workers that are so needed in the state, especially in the rural areas. And most of these folks are already working, so it's a way for them to actually move up their career. Then we have medical assisting, which is fully accredited until May of 2019. And I'll speak a little bit more about the accreditation status in a little bit when we get to them. And it's a 3-semester certificate. It starts every fall in general. We've had some cohorts that have gone off schedule, but in general, it starts every fall and it ends in the summertime. Phlebotomy is a 1-semester certificate. We currently do not have a national accreditation with that, but that is something that Director Finley would like to do, and we are working towards that. We just need faculty to help support that. Then on the next page, we have nursing. So we have full approval until fall of 2021. That's when our next site visit will be. Currently, we have a 72 credit associate, and as you all know, it is nested into the UNM bachelor's degree in nursing with just 1 additional semester.
And let me just ask you a question. If somebody doesn't want to get the bachelor's, they don't have to?
No, how it works is that when the students apply up front, they get to check whether they just want to be considered for the associate track or the dual enrollment track. Also under nursing and allied health is the nursing assistant program. It's a 1-semester program that's regulated by the Department of Health. Our community health worker program is also regulated by the Department of Health, and it is a 2-semester program. And some of you may recall that we were the first institution of higher learning in the state to Naomi's smiling at me because she was in our first class. We were the first institution in the state to actually get endorsed by the Department of Health, and is still a very popular certificate. Underneath there, which you can't see very well, but on the PowerPoint that I sent, you could scroll it down. It says it's patient care assistant. And it also has home health aide in that same box because they are nested together. We did not teach those 2 certificates for a couple semesters because we were in the process of revising them. We just got approval from the curriculum committee, so we will be starting them back up in the spring. What's nice about these 2 certificates, and we're calling it now the Personal Care Attendant Certificate, because it's a very short certificate. It's 4 weeks, where the person will learn really how to take care of folks in their home, their clients, so we're not going to call them patients necessarily. And we base this on a curriculum that CNM created using the Department of Health guidelines. And so because we were part of the SunPath grant with them, we collaborated with them and took their curriculum. We thought, why reinvent the wheel when they've already got it vetted by the state? So we just sort of revised ours. So this 4-week certificate then nests, and there's no clinical to that. And what's nice about that is for those that are undocumented or just trying to get skills to take care of loved ones or maybe get a job as a personal care attendant not attached to an official agency, it gives them a set of skills where they could actually start working in entry-level health care. That certificate nests then into a 4-week home health aide certificate. So both of those certificates can be completed in 1 semester. So we're really excited about bringing it back, and we're going to try to use the IBEST model for that in the spring, but also open it up to the public. And that's overseen by the state as well.
Now, just a question there. So what part of those can apply to any other certificate or degree up there? Or
so they don't directly, which is really, it was a struggle with our SunPath grant because we were tasked with trying to get stacked and lattice certificates. But they're kind of all at the same level in some ways. They're not prerequisites of each other. But I will say that, and that was the other thing that was wrong with our initial home health aide certificate. It looked exactly like our nursing assistant certificate, except there were 2 extra chapters about home health care. And so I think that was why it wasn't so popular. So we've created it so that I think for those who may feel timid about going into healthcare or they need a lot of reinforcement and support, the home health aide certificate is a nice foundational course to get one's feet wet in healthcare and to see, they could start working in the community and see, do I want to take that next step and try to do something more rigorous, which would be the nursing assistant class. And some of you may remember years ago, we did have as a prerequisite to getting into our nursing program, the nursing assistant class, but we took that away because we couldn't meet the demand of all the pre-nursing students that needed to take that class in order to apply. I mean, any given semester I've heard we might have, about 500 pre-nursing students. So we got rid of that prerequisite, and then when we adopted the state nursing curriculum, it was not a prerequisite. So currently that is something that we're trying to increase in terms of how can we get some of these certificates to nest into each other. I feel like we're missing a slide. Can you go back, Mason? Because we didn't talk about EMSI and I think they're stuck at the bottom of one of the slides, so let me just talk briefly about it, because I did go through them today, so I know it's there, but I apologize for that. It's hard to cram it all in 2 slides. Respiratory care, you all know, is an associate degree program, very rigorous. And most of these associate degree programs take approximately 4 semesters. And you all can correct me if I say anything wrong. Then, of course, with EMSI, and respiratory care has a national accreditation. And I have to say, and I think we'll say it later too, that they are phasing out 2-year respiratory care programs as accredited programs. So going forward, we will not lose our accreditation, and we can get reaccredited, but no new 2-year respiratory programs can apply for accreditation. They're turning it into a 4-year degree.
Well, will that limit the number of our potential students who will want to get an associate's instead of a bachelor's?
I think if anything, it will make it more enticing for people to come here. Would you agree, Rebecca?
Yes, I would. There's no bachelor's program in the state of New Mexico.
Uh-huh.
And maybe one in Arizona and one in Colorado. So there's not very many bachelor's programs yet, but we have to be attentive, because if we lose our accreditation,
yeah,
we will not be able
right.
to mm-hmm. And we have designs to do something similar to nursing, which is to make a consortium agreement so that students can get their bachelor's on this campus, either as a bachelor's completion or as a standalone entry-level bachelor's. Excellent. But it takes some time to make that work.
So, and the other department that I had sent the PowerPoint, and I think this is a PDF, so if Tricia can send the PowerPoint to you all, you will see that you can scroll on each slide for the rest of them. And the last program on that page is the EMSI department. And as you all may know, we have 3 different certificates within that program. We have national and state accreditation. And I believe, when is our accreditation up, Sahaj? 22. Just right around the corner. And how it works is we have both the EMT Basic and the EMT Intermediate / Advanced are both 1 semester courses. And then we have our 3 semester, is that right? 3 semester paramedic certificate, which nests into the associate in paramedicine, and all very popular. So any questions right now about accreditation or anything? Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about the departments now. So I asked my departments to send me a few slides, and I took some of the things out that they put in there and put them at the end because there were a lot of duplicates, and we'll talk about that later. In terms of the dental department successes and challenges or opportunities, we have very high pass rates on their national licensing exams. Some years 87, but as high as 100%. And as you can see, the graduation rate is very high as well, as is the employment rate. When they're doing clinicals in their last semester, a lot of them will have job offers before they actually finish the program. It takes approximately 2 semesters to complete either the dental health certificate or the AFDA certificate, and about 5 semesters then to complete the associate degree. And one of the things I will mention is that we do have about a 20% transfer to 4-year schools, and I would say, Amna, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but many of them then transfer into dental hygiene programs. And a few years ago, their keynote student graduate speaker at UNM from the School of Health was one of our alumni that graduated and who was graduating there as a hygienist. So we're very proud of our graduates. Amna does an excellent job of trying to combine more online, blended, evening and weekend courses. The AFDA certificate in particular, a lot of those folks are working in their field. And so Amna really tries to give them most of their work online or on the weekends. And it seems to work very well. I'm also proud to say that Amna has created, she's the only program in the state that offers a course on community dental health in the dental assistant program. So she's really on the map there in terms of trying to encourage folks to explore those careers past dental health. They have a very active student club called Smiles, and they do a high level of interaction with the other departments, nursing, respiratory, and even math, which I think is great. Some of the challenges, and I think you all know this, it's no surprise that with dental, as with our other allied health program, we're really trying to recruit more male students. And because Amna's group graduates in the summer, the data collection is a challenge for her, but that's something we're working on. And then these are just some of the statistics that you can see in terms of enrollment. Our enrollment tends to be between 16 to 18 students. Just like any other clinical program, the lab restrictions make it hard to have more students than that. But as you can see, the completion rates for the EFTA program are high. I mean, we just started this a few years ago. And are you at capacity with that program at 12? Yeah, so we're at capacity, so that's really great. Let's see if there's anything else on that slide. Okay, I think that's...
Jack has a question.
Sure. Member Sullivan?
Yeah, I just was, pardon me, curious on the third sequence of bar charts there, 2017, 2018. It looks like a fairly substantial change in the fail drop rate. Did Anna get more rigorous, or what happened there?
That was the year we got our reaccreditation also. I don't know, maybe. But the number actually, since we are a very small program, so even one number adds a big difference in statistics. So in this number that you see 6, this includes some of the students who change their mind also, not just they fail, but they change their mind. So one of the students actually is going towards nursing, another student, so that's why you see a big number. Otherwise,
I was just curious, it was 1 the year before and
Yeah.
3 the year before that, so I just,
Generally, the trend is we will only have 1 or 2 who are not able to complete the program, but yes, this year we had a little difference, and we did talk about that.
okay, thank you.
Next slide. These are some pictures that just show how active Amna and Carla are with their students. Every year they volunteer their time and give students some clinical exposure at the New Mexico Mission of Mercy Free Dental Clinic. I think a couple of years ago we had it in Santa Fe. It goes around the state, and this last year it was in Albuquerque, I believe. They do a great job in educating the kids on campus, and they take their students to the Roundhouse and advocate for a dental therapy program. I have to commend Amna in her outreach. She's always looking for new creative ways to recruit and educate. And I may have mentioned this before, but I think it's worth mentioning. I first met Amna about 15 years ago or so when I was a school nurse at El Dorado Elementary School, and I found out about this great program at the college, and they were offering free education for grade school students. So I called Amna, and she brought her team of students with their stuffed animals and huge toothbrushes over and did an excellent job educating and entertaining our kindergartners and first graders. So I've seen her at work. Next slide. Why don't you come and sit up here with me? I think that might be. I just realized I should probably just have the director up here so they don't have to keep going back and forth.
So Jack has another question.
I have another,
Yes.
I had another question.
Okay.
Uh,
Go far.
about this, well, it's kind of a comment about the SMILES program. On one of your community days when you had all the, I think it was at Halloween when you had all the booths out in the student center. I went around and talked to the students who were there from the dental program there. And I learned something, and I really felt it's important that, and maybe you can explain it further, about the codes that are on toothpaste tubes. Could you tell us about that? The colored codes.
The colored codes, they're talking about if they have chemicals or no chemicals, or if they're natural source.
Yes.
Or fluoride base.
Yes.
Yep. So that's something that needs some public attention. But if they start putting all the information in words on the toothpaste tube, that would not be possible. So that's why they have those colored codings available.
But most of the ones you get at the store have a red line on them.
Yeah, because
And what does that mean?
they have chemicals in there. Some of those chemicals may not be good for everybody.
But they don't tell you what chemicals those are.
No.
No, okay. Some of the toothpaste tubes, if you really dig around, have a blue line on them. What does that mean?
That means they don't have, they have like chemicals which are, I would say, approved, and they may be nothing which you should be that much worried about. The green line is they are coming from the natural source.
And you can't find them with the green line, I can tell you that.
Oh, well, they are, if you go to natural store, there are some.
You have to go to Whole Foods.
Whole Foods or something.
But I thought that was very interesting. I thought it was very important. So there's those 3 colors.
I never noticed that. Thank you.
Yeah, you see, there you go.
And just for information, Smiles Club do booth at Halloween to give toothbrushes. So we are not just giving candies, we are giving toothbrushes and flosses.
Yeah.
And for everybody's information, SMILES is actually acronym for SMILS, Students Majoring in Lovely Everlasting Smiles.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Amna. Okay, now we'll move on to EMSI, which stands for Emergency Medical Services Institute. And I think probably the most important things that I want to highlight on this is that we usually have about, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, about 16 to 22 paramedic students per cohort. Did you say?
Capacity is 18.
Capacity is 18. I know sometimes he takes a few extra. And I think really worthy of noting is that our EMSI students consistently pass their licensing exams at a higher rate than the state and national.
All right.
I think that's huge, and I think that speaks highly to the caliber of faculty and leadership that we have.
Yes.
Also worthy of mentioning is the fact that we're doing all this enrollment, as you can see, students per semester. Those are the enrollments for all 3 different certificates. And we're doing that with leadership of Sahej and only 1 full-time faculty currently. It's been a real struggle to get. We've had the openings, but it's been a struggle, and I'll have Sahej speak to why that is a little bit later. You can go to the next slide. So some of the highlights that Sahej wanted me to point out is that we really do have a supportive community in terms of the workforce and advisory committee members out in the field. As some of you may know, we couldn't find somebody to do the full-time work of leading our paramedicine program, and actually so the fire department came to us and they're working with us and using their employees who are qualified to help us teach our students. So it's been great to have their support. I think all my directors feel like they have administrative support here at SFCC, which is huge. Certainly the MSI programs are always in demand programs. We have high graduation, certification, and placement rates for the graduates, as you saw earlier. So I'm going to let Sahej talk about what the main challenge that we have briefly, just in terms of getting instructors here, and it's really not in our control.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, members of the board, Madam President, to be here. Essentially, there's 2 primary challenges with us attracting faculty to our program. Number 1 is, there's not really a nice way to put this, is the faculty pay scale is not competitive with what people with the credentials that we need them to have can make in the field. An illustration of this is that our graduates of our paramedic program, as soon as they have graduated and go through whatever mentorship process they go through at their employer, are making maybe $1,500 less at their base than our faculty make. And it's important to note that that $1,500 less that they're making than our faculty members does not include a significant amount, somewhere depending on where they work, from $5,000 to $10,000 in scheduled overtime. And they're working 2 to 3 days a week. And when I say to somebody who, you know, we need them to have a number of years of experience, and so when I say to them, as well as additional credentials, right? One of our graduates could not immediately turn around and come into our classroom and teach. So when I try to recruit and go to people who have the credentials and say, I'd like you to take a relatively large pay cut, increase the number of days you have to go to work, and by the way, you're going to take this work home with you because I'm answering emails at all hours and dealing with crises at all hours because we have students out on clinicals at all hours. And I say, and we're going to pay you significantly less. They don't even bother laughing at me. They turn around and walk away. The other challenge that we have is a prime group for us to recruit from are people who've retired from the fire service. And they have the experience, they have the years, and they don't need this work as a primary source of income. Unfortunately, due to some rules and laws that the state passed to prevent double dipping, if they come to work for us, they put their cost of living adjustments of their retirement on hold while they come to work for us. And it's 3% that they put on hold for every year that they're here. On its face, that 3% is not a large amount, but they're math wizards at doing this. And when they compound that over years that they would potentially be working for us, it becomes untenable for those retirees to come work for our program. So they go and work. In fact, we had a retiree who came and worked for us, and he couldn't sustain that loss of income, even though he loved working here, and now he's working at another place here in town, making significantly more money and not taking a hit to his retirement year over year. So those are primarily, and just to add in, the cost of living in Santa Fe makes it incredibly challenging. And in fact, so far it's not just challenging, it's proven impossible to recruit faculty. And when I travel around the country and discuss both the cost of living and our pay scale to my colleagues around the nation, we just are not at a competitive place. So that's, in a nutshell, the challenges that we face with recruiting faculty. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Sahej? Okay, all right, thank you. Oh.
It's the same for nursing.
It is. Actually, it's the same for all of our allied health programs. We struggle with that issue. Not in terms of the salary issue. Thank you. All right, if I can have Terry come up, we're going to talk about nursing and allied health really quickly. So I'm very proud to let you know that our pass rates have climbed since we had that crisis a few years ago, and they are very strong, if not the strongest in the state for a community college that is partnering with a university in the BSN program. You'll see that our typical student enrollment right now has been about 118 students per semester, and currently that includes 5 semesters. You'll also see that in addition to the nursing program on the side, the right side there, we've listed our awards that we have for the nursing assistant program, which is a very popular program, and the community health worker program. We had an unusually large number of community health worker certificates in the spring because there was a UNM HRSA grant that was actually paying for them to get the training for free. And that grant has just now ended. So going forward, we will probably be able to accommodate a cohort of approximately 12 every semester. And I think the job market for that, it's sufficient. And we already talked about the updates that we're doing to the home health aid and what we're now calling our personal care attendant certificate. Terry, anything you want to bring out in this slide? I think that was mostly it. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one then. And this is just sort of a reflection of some of the, oh, I'm sorry.
Question on the
Member
nursing.
Sullivan?
Again, a similar question that was brought up before about, although your students enrolled are almost identical, a fairly significant drop in the student credit hours from 770 to 629. Could you talk to that?
2016, Santa Fe Community College extended enrollment to 32 ITT students. So we were closing out an old curriculum, and because that old curriculum had not been archived, we were able, or the former director and Dean Landon were able to offer that to students who were actually not going to have, or not going to be able to complete their nursing education.
What does that mean? It's not, the program wasn't archived. What does that mean?
So we were changing to the NIMNET curriculum, which we are currently using. We were in the process of that change. It hadn't been completed. So ITT had a more traditional curriculum compared to a concept-based curriculum. So concept-based curriculum is what we're currently using. It's what's being used in that is the NIMNET curriculum. So it was easier to align and accept credits from ITT because they were a more traditional curriculum as well.
And did those ITT students make it through?
Yes, sir. They have all graduated, and I believe all except one are currently practicing nurses.
Oh,
yes,
good.
in the state of New Mexico.
Thank you.
I don't know how many of you recall, but Terry was actually the former director at the ITT program. So when they close their program, not only do the students all lose their place at the school, but all the faculty and administrators. So Terry actually came up here and worked as an adjunct for us to support her, how many, 40 students? 32 students that we were trying to get through while we phased out that old curriculum. So we're very proud that she decided to stay with us.
Thank you.
As you can see, the demographics of this program are similar to that of the other allied health programs in that we are predominantly Hispanic and female. So we're all working on that. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So some of the successes and opportunities. So we're very proud, like I said earlier, of our pass rate. We want to keep it strong. Recall that the minimum standard for a first-time pass rate at the state and national level is 80% usually depending on what the national trend reflects, but it hasn't changed too much in the last 10 years. It's 80%. So I think the fact that we improved and are climbing still is really a good indicator of the quality of the leadership and the faculty instruction. Our completion rate, it's rigorous, and so once they get in, they do very well. 94% employment rate, at least 95%. So we have really appreciated the administrative support just with like our other programs. So one of the unique factors of this program is the fact that we have this nationally recognized dual enrollment nursing curriculum where students will get both degrees simultaneously at the same time and get awarded those degrees from both their institutions. So students can stay in Santa Fe and get a bachelor's degree. I'm also proud to say that we applied for and received that 3-year grant from the Con Alma Health Foundation, so that Terry is busy with her faculty taking to curriculum this fall, a high school LPN certificate that will nest into our BSN program. We hope that the program will start next fall at Capitol High School. Our biggest challenge right now is that we lack a clinical coordinator. With over 115 students in any given semester that need to be placed in clinicals, we don't have a clinical coordinator, so there's a lead faculty for each level that helps Terry in that coordination. It's a full-time job. A lot of other programs not only have a clinical coordinator, but also have an assistant director. The other biggest challenge right now is that we just signed a new UNM MOU for how to pay the faculty that teach their classes to our students. And so we're working through that right now because we're having some issues with how UNM are paying our faculty. But we're hopeful that we'll work it out with them. Next slide. Okay, let's solve
Another
yes.
question. Sorry to badger you.
No, we love it. Thank you.
But we heard the issue with EMIs on the hiring retired state workers. I imagine there's fewer state workers who are in the nursing field, but in looking ahead for the college, I hope that we'll be focusing on improving and the programs that we have that are really successful, and looking at that paradigm of what do we do well and how do we do that better and more of it. So in thinking about that, how do we get more nursing instructors? Is my question to you.
So there's actually a national shortage of master prepared nurses. So in order to be nationally accredited to teach nursing, you have to have at least a master's degree. So there's a national shortage. So that's kind of the start. Any of my master's prepared nurses can earn easily twice as much as they're earning as full-time instructors here. So they willingly take a pay cut in order to teach nursing students. So it's partially the willingness to do that, partially the financial security. Over half of my full-time faculty are retired, and they can afford to work here. The others who are not retired work more than one job. So it's a personal commitment, so you really try to recruit people who are willing to do it. It's not easy. We don't pay a competitive salary. Our students will make more than pretty much all of their faculty when they graduate. Upon graduation, their first job, they will make more than my faculty. So that's difficult. It's a really hard sell. It's a very hard sell. So it's about the personal commitment and passion that each of the instructors bring to the program. I'm fortunate that I have very committed faculty who provide the guidance that's needed to be successful. So increasing faculty salaries would be huge in order to attract faculty, but I also think if you have a really strong program, that attracts faculty. So our latest full-time hire came to me in May and said, do you think you're going to have a job? I want to come work with you. And that speaks very highly of this program. I also have clinical partners who encourage their nurses to come teach clinicals for us. So the VA is an incredible partner, and they absolutely encourage their nurses to come and teach for our students. And for clinical level instruction, they're not required to have a BSN, they're required to have a bachelor's degree, so that's a little bit easier to attract. But really, it's our commitment to students and our connection to our clinical partners that really make the difference.
What about, I went to the open house in Presbyterian last weekend, 300 employees that are going to be bringing on to that facility. I think we have been talking with them and with Christus about programs of borrowing, as it were, borrowing nurses to teach, and without them losing their salaries or their benefits.
So that's something that's in process. It's not something that's been fully established because honestly, they're putting all of their effort into opening their new facility. They won't be as able to participate fully until next fall, but those are definitely conversations that we are currently having. I know that they hire new graduates, and they've hired 4 of our new graduates to start working in their new facility.
Does Christus do that now?
Do what?
Provide
absolutely
faculty.
Well, they have. Christus is going through a change. So they've been changing some of their departments. They've been downsizing and restructuring. So we did lose half-time faculty that they paid for. So they paid for all of her time that she spent here on campus. So it was 20 hours a week that they provided. It's not something they're able to provide now. They don't have enough qualified instructors or qualified nurses to be able to do that. It is something that they have made a commitment to continue when they're capable.
Okay. I hope that works out.
We're going to keep talking to them. And it did work out in the past. Did you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Can you hear me? Is it on? Yeah. So I'm going into the medical field, as I've mentioned before. Oops, I turned it off. And I started off as a CNA, then as a community health worker, and I just recently finished the EMT program. And I'm very grateful for these programs because actually doing the EMT program gave me that extra push to really push forward to going into nursing school, because I was kind of losing that excitement just because those prereqs were taking a little extra. And I honestly, I was extremely afraid about the medication dosage. And now that I experienced it through the EMT program, that really helped me continue burning that fire towards having that energy. So thank you guys very much for all of you do. I know sometimes it gets really difficult, especially being short-staffed. But we appreciate it. Thank you for everything that you do, and keep pushing through, because I'm actually very proud to be a SFCC student. And when I speak about SFCC, I speak about highly about it. I'm not like, oh yeah, I go to SFCC, and I'm like, it's an awesome school. You should go to it. Whenever I find kids out there wanting to go the wrong way, I'm like, dude, you like to paint super cool? I try to pull them over here. It's really exciting to come here. We're fortunate to have a community college here, and we don't have to travel far away. So thank you guys for everything that you do.
Well, thank you for that testimony, because I think that speaks to the fact that while we don't have nesting that we talked about and stacked and latticed credentials, what she just spoke about really tells you about the pathway that's available. And with each rigorous program, folks can be more encouraged and know their direction. So thank you for that. I just want to briefly talk about the concern about the lack of faculty. And I think Terry spoke very well to what the more immediate answer would be. Nationally, they're looking at this as well. And the other thing that we have to do, it's not a short-term solution, is we have to increase the pipeline for instructors. And that's where getting the bachelor's really helps, because once we can get nursing students to get their bachelor's, then getting that master's, it's only 2 more years, or even now they have expedited programs. So that is the other solution, and we're a part of that as we do the dual enrollment program.
One last thing, sorry. Also, as I'm out in the community, every time I talk to a young adult, a high school student, and they mention they're wanting to go into the medical field, from my personal experience, I always recommend to them, you know what, you should start off maybe as a CNA and see if you like it, because then you're going to spend your whole 2.5, 3 years doing whatever you have to do, and then you get to the nursing program, you're like, oh, this is not what I want to do after all. So that is one recommendation I keep giving our students about getting their feet wet in the medical field before they go straight to a really long degree.
That's the value of these 1-semester certificates in allied health. Thank you. I'm going to ask Director Yuri Finley to come up now for a minute. So we're going to talk about medical assisting and phlebotomy. And some of the successes that are tied to the medical assisting program is that we have a high completion and job placement rate after the 3-semester certificate. And again, very much like dental health, I believe that one of the reasons that we have such a high rate of employment is that a lot of them will get offered jobs while they're doing their clinical. Would you agree, Yuri?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, right now the program is being run by Yuri as the only full-time person. Fortunately, he does have 3 or 4 adjuncts who work that are able to help them. But there's so much more we could do if we could have a full-time person. Right now, Yuri is in charge of all the accreditation requirements. And when you look at the nice manual that I supplied you, you will see that of all the programs we have, the thickest set of requirements comes from medical assisting. And he also doesn't have a clinical coordinator. So he's overseeing medical assisting students that are going out into clinicals. And you'll see that we approximate probably having about 15 to 20 medical assisting students in clinical. At the same time, we have approximately 15 phlebotomy students in clinicals. So there's a lot of work to be done. I should mention that we did have our first accreditation site visit in May. This is an interesting, I learned a lot about this program, that when we were first accredited in about 2009, I believe, there was no site visit. And so we had several directors in the position, and they maintained the reports and the application renewals, and things have changed along the way. The accreditations have become have increased. And so when we had our first site visit in May, we had quite a few citations, and we received a letter saying that they were suggesting probationary recommendation, mostly because of not having their exact words around curriculum on our tests, exams, and in the syllabi. So they wanted it at that level, and that was not something that we were aware of. Fortunately, they're working with us, the national accreditation folks, and Dr. Cervantes was able to write a letter on our behalf asking us to have that status reconsidered, and they are going to give us until May 29 next year to go ahead and fix all the citations, which we are in the process of doing, and then they will make a recommendation in May. So we're optimistic that Yuri has basically, with the help of his faculty, fixed everything that needs to be done, but it was not in time for the report when it was due. So we're on our way to submitting it again in the spring of 2019. You can go to the next slide. This just gives you some demographics in terms and a visual in terms of what happens. Our enrollment fluctuates because sometimes Yuri will have extra faculty and we'll be able to take on extra students. So it's been as high as 33. But typically, again, this is another program where the lab restricts the number of students you can have in any one given lab. Our biggest challenge, as you can tell from this graph, is tracking the licensure. Medical assisting is an interesting profession because you don't necessarily need to be certified nationally to get a job as a medical assistant. Christus does their own internal certifying. So it's a challenge sometimes for our graduates to feel like they need to get that license, even though long-term it's only going to help their career. So Yuri is going forward, he's decided that he's going to actually change the fees for the final course of that program to include the licensing fees, which will help if they've got, if they're getting financial aid, and will encourage them. They should have no reason then not to take the licensure exam, which will be better for their careers long term. Next slide. These are our phlebotomy numbers. You can see that in some semesters we've had them high as 42. That was a bit of an anomaly, and that was due to the SunPath grant, where they really focused on short-term certificates with assistance in terms of academic support through the IBES model. And so that's why we've had it as high as 42. And fortunately, Yuri had the support to be able to do that. Right now we have 12, which is unusual, a little low, but the good news is that we also have a group at Raton High School that's going through the program. Phlebotomy tends to be a very popular dual enrollment program. Next slide, please. So as I said previously, a success for phlebotomy is that it continues to be popular. Raton High School really likes the program, and we've had 9 total graduates to date over the last, I believe, 2 years. We talked about how certification is difficult to track, but we're working on that. And again, we also talked about how currently we don't have a national accreditation. One does exist, and as soon as we can get a second person to help Yuri, I think we'll be well on our way to get that accreditation. It is completed in 1 semester, and very much like medical assisting, we have some online blended evening classes, but unfortunately, the clinicals in both the programs require being available during the day. So that's the only problem with that being an online program. And then we have a pretty low job placement, mostly because a lot of our students like to take it to strengthen their skills to go on, whether it's in EMS or nursing or medical assisting. So it's a great set of skills. So we're not too concerned about that low job placement because we feel like a lot of the students then continue on. Next slide, please. Okay, any questions or comments for Yuri?
I just had a comment regarding the accreditation, and I do believe that the representative from the accrediting agency did encourage us to request that. Isn't that correct? The extension or the reconsideration so that we could catch up with the requirements.
Absolutely, and I think that is a huge indicator in knowing that we have them on our side. They're working with us, and he did make that recommendation and accepted that request.
Yes. Thank you.
And finally, if I could have Rebecca come up. So here are some of the highlights for respiratory care. You can see out of the 53 graduates from December of 2017, so those are total numbers here. 51 of them have received national licensing, and 46 are employed in the field of respiratory care. Right now we have 2 cohorts, one that is about to graduate with 9 soon-to-be graduates, and then 9 who just started, for a total of 18. We have very impressive credentialing success. If you'll see that they range from 88 to 96, depending on what licensing exam they're taking. We've got overall positive placement of 86, and I'm very proud to say that our program received a credentialing award for the past 3 years. So that's very impressive. Next slide, please. Oh, go ahead, Rebecca.
The 3 in the cohort 6, now everyone is placed and everyone is credentialed. And in the cohort 7, which is going to graduate in December, 1 has a job, 2 more have applied for jobs, and so they're already
Thank you. Next slide. This is some repetition of the narrative from the previous slide, but the one thing I just want to point out from this is you'll see the second to the last narrative where it talks about the number of graduates that stay in northern and central New Mexico up to 81%. And I think that's really outstanding. Next slide. And respiratory, like our other programs, are very active out in the community. They also, the students worked at the Mission of Mercy Free Dental Clinic, and they also do outreach. And Rebecca's always looking for opportunities in the community to recruit for the program. Again, you'll notice, like the other demographics of the allied health programs, it tends to be primarily female, so that's something that we're trying to do is focus on recruiting more males. Next slide. They also have an active student club. They're called the Breath Savers Club, Active Breath Savers. Are they called Active Breath Savers? No, they're active.
Breath savers.
Okay. And they also, just like the other programs, work very closely with the departments and do joint simulations. You know, Rebecca mentioned that she really appreciates the institutional commitment. There was a time when we were worried that we might have to cancel discontinue the program, but the college stepped forward with help from Christus, and it's continuing to be strong. And again, we mentioned how we're going to be one of the few two-year schools that can maintain accreditation, as no new programs that are from two-year institutions will be able to be accredited going forward. Biggest challenges, they're very expensive, their equipment, but it saves lives, so we need those ventilators and we need all that equipment so that the students can practice and save lives when they get out into the community. And Rebecca's always struggling to get the word out in terms of what the profession is. The program is still not very well known, but it's really amazing when we get folks into the lab how their interest does start to show. So that's something that we're working on in terms of recruiting and education. Next slide. Okay, anything else?
I just wanted to say that our local community is Christus, UNM, Lovelace are all truly supportive of the program. And as with nursing, they, especially Christus, supports their employees to become clinical instructors for us. And we're challenged in that place because our clinical instructors must be employed in the facility in which they are clinical instructor. And we're limited to a maximum of 5 students, and in some areas like NICU and PICU, only 3 students per instructor. So that makes it challenging to get our students through the program.
Thank you. Next, this slide. We've talked a lot about these things. What I want to point out about this slide is that at any given time, clinical coordination of all our programs includes multiple sites, over 80 different agencies. I attached to my my board packet that you have access to, it is a list of our clinical affiliates. It's a fluid document. It changes from year to year. But it's pretty amazing that we have that many that we have to orchestrate at one given time, with an average of about 300 students at any given time that might be in any given clinical site, which requires fingerprinting and drug screen with each new cohort. And all this is done with the staff that you have met and the administrative support of 2 amazing administrative assistants that not only help run all the allied health programs, but also math, sciences, and engineering. So it's huge. Board Member Sullivan, you'll be happy to know that we have very engaged advisory committees. I'm very proud of that. And dental, EMSI, medical assisting, nursing, and respiratory have committees that meet twice a year and keep minutes. And this is for accreditation reasons as well as workforce involvement. I think the other huge success of what we do together is the Simulation Center, which supports all the different programs. And of course, the amazing building and the classrooms and the lab and equipment that we have. Next slide, please. I'm going to go very quickly, but I'm just going to point out a couple of things about these slides. I want you to notice that in terms of our enrollment at the bottom, that we have, if you compare the American Indian enrollment, which is the gray, compared to the rest of the college. We are very excited and very proud that we are starting to attract more American Indians. And I think that's very exciting. Next slide. And then what I want to draw your attention to on this slide is the top left, certificates and degrees awarded. So if that, you'll see that time period from 2017 in the summer to spring 2018. Allied Health was responsible for 41% of all the certificates and degrees awarded on campus with the staff that I just told you about. I think that's pretty huge. We're very proud of the work that we do, and we couldn't do it without the team that we have. Next slide. Whew, I was trying to go fast because I know that was a lot. So I had put in a few slides about our Medical Simulation Center, but this is a time where I look to you for direction. We can just forego that, do it another time, because I know the focus for tonight was on our allied health programs. So I'll either take questions or I can go through the slides very quickly.
Go through them really quickly.
Okay, all right. So this is just a collage of all the activities that you can see from the control room as well as throughout the different rooms. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So basically we have, Ray is very good about keeping the numbers, and for this fall, he already has a calendar of 850 scheduled student encounters. It's exhausting, and that includes all those groups that you see there, nursing levels 1 through 5, all the way through dental. Next slide, please. And that serves approximately about 226 students. The center is staffed by Ray and Michael, and we're very proud that Ray is now one of only 650 people in the United States that has the status of being a certified health simulation educator. And that was our first step in terms of looking towards getting the simulation center accredited. So we hope to do that in the next few years. You all know we also do simulation events and movie locations shoots. We just had a Netflix movie that came and took over the place. And of course, workforce training. Next slide, please.
And they pay us for that.
And they pay us. Probably not enough, but they pay us. We have about 200 participants each semester, mostly through Christus right now, of nurses, physicians, medical assistant, nursing assistants that come and get training. We also have a collaboration with New Mexico Donor Service, and they come twice a year to do their annual competency and organ procurement protocol training. And then we also have the UNM family practice residents come as well. Next slide, please. And this just talks about the accreditation that we're trying to go towards. And right now our challenges are that we have 3 high-fidelity simulators that are starting to age out. And each of these tend to be about $75,000. So we're going to be looking for maybe some help from our workforce partners, grants, et cetera, and planning ahead so that we can replace them. And then Ray is also looking at software that can help him keep up with the tracking of everything that's happening there. And he's talking to Jeremy and OIT right now to see what they can do versus what we may need to purchase from the outside to support what we're doing. Next slide. I think that's it.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your patience and your attention, and it was a pleasure to be here. And any questions or comments?
Just one question, Jenny, about the technician for the simulation lab. I know that you lost a technician.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Professor Gibbs. Patrick Nichols, who was the impetus to help build a lot of the technology in the simulation center. He retired, and it was kind of his second job to come out. He had spent 20 years in biomedical technology in the hospitals locally.
Wow.
And I worked with him in the hospitals, and I looked at the sim lab and said, I know a guy for this. And
So he's the new person who has replaced?
Yes.
Okay. New guy.
We're very fortunate. If I may, I just have one comment. Yeah, I speak loud enough for everybody.
Well, it's the taping.
Oh, it's taping. It's still good. So thank you for taking our time. As Jenny said,
Into the mic.
as Dean Jenny Landon said, thank you for your time. The Simulation Center supports all of the allied health programs here. On a personal note, first of all, I'm an alumni of this college. My first degree is from here. On a personal note, these folks do an amazing amount of work, and they need a lot of help. We could expand and do way more for this community if we had the personnel to do it. We have wonderful toys in the Sim Lab. We have great equipment. We need people. We need human resource here. And that's, as they've said, it's very difficult to find. But the impact that we're having here is profound. I recently crashed my bicycle and ended up in our ER. The EMT who took care of me was a graduate of our EMT program, who's now a level 5 nurse and will graduate in December. The nurse who took care of me was a graduate of our programs. The doctor who took care of me trained in our sim lab. Okay? That's the level of what we're dealing with here. We're changing people's lives. But we need help to do that. I am also an employee of Christus St. Vincent's. And as the salaries say, it's, as they've said about the salaries, I need to work a second job. I am not a retired person. I work every Saturday for Christus as a respiratory therapist. I have for 19 years. We can do better. This is the most amazing place I've ever worked, and I hope to retire from here. But I want to say, the level of the people they turn out, I'm proud to work with every day. I am proud to work with these people. They're excellent, excellent care providers. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So I just have one question, Jenny.
Yes.
So how many more applicants do we have in nursing than we can admit?
It varies semester to semester. Terry, do you recall last year?
So last semester, we had 50 applicants
50.
and 24 spots.
So almost twice as.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And some semesters will have less. We might have 40. We don't usually have less than 40, though, I would say, in general,
For 24 slots.
for 24 slots.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair,
Over here.
I just wanted to make a quick comment and then to let Jenny go. First of all, thank you to all of our faculty and staff and allied health who make these programs possible and crank out that graduation rate. I know I said to Jenny last time we were at graduation, I said, "Are these all yours?" Because it felt like we sat there for a long time as allied health came across the stage to get their diplomas and certificates. So congratulations to all of you guys on that hard work and on getting students out the door and getting them trained well. The other thing I want to recognize is the really strong relationships you have with industry, which I think is critical in getting those students placed and seeing this kind of a closed loop system that we have in producing students that walk right into those facilities and are successful and productive day one.
Thank you for that.
And I think what this has shown, which is not new, is that this is a place where we could easily double the enrollment if we had the faculty and
Space.
I think we pretty much could probably arrange the space, but we really need the
We
faculty.
could figure out how to share the space.
Yeah.
The clinical sites, that's a little bit more of a
Right,
challenge,
right.
but we could work with that as well.
And we would be meeting a community need. which
Absolutely,
We're not meeting.
absolutely. And hopefully getting more educators to come back and work with us.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Henry, you have some guests you want to introduce. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just to apologize, Chairman and members of the board, we kind of barged in on here, but there's some distinguished guests here from the research and users groups of energy storage throughout the United States, I believe. And there's also some folks from the Dewey Office of Electricity. And those folks are here on a particular peer review in Santa Fe. They're also collaborating with us on our microgrid, specifically our energy storage systems. And Steve, I'll let you SFCC. 5 minutes of your time.
We have not time to go as the chair of the Trade and Technology Department. And I was
Steve, could you come up here because we need you?
Take the mic and,
Yeah.
Okay, for those of you that haven't met me, I'm Steve Gomez. I'm the chair of the Trades and Technology Department. I was also at the peer review giving a poster on the microgrid that we're doing here and the batteries, and we had a taco bar to bring these guys over to see a real microgrid being built. And we have people here from Hawaii, Alaska, Canada, from academia, from industry, utilities, regulatory people, and so I think they've been impressed. But if you want to hear from any of them that would like to, I would like to give them an opportunity just to give a 5-second impression of what people outside the school think of what we're doing. So.
can you take that microphone?
Maybe
Yes,
you
I
can take
can.
the mic.
I can walk. You're first.
First in line. How did that happen? So aloha. My name is Laurence Simbardier. I'm from the Natural Energy Laboratory of Hawaii Authority. So I'm on the Big Island of Hawaii. This is a state technical park. We're all about sustainability with a focus on energy as well as ocean sciences. And it turns out there are a couple of people on your faculty who are familiar with NELHA and actually have some joint projects. So that was a very interesting thing to find out. But yeah, very impressed with what I've seen so far. We also have a community college that's right next to us and also trying to focus on sustainability and the types of certificates that it sounds like you are offering. So it sounds like there could be some joint work there.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Good evening. My name is Ian Rowlands. I'm a professor at the University of Waterloo in Canada, and I'm part of a 5-person delegation from Canada that is here for the peer review conference. 3 of my colleagues are with me here, and we represent universities, 2 in Ontario and 1 in Nova Scotia. And we've been delighted for all of us, it's our first time in New Mexico. We've been delighted by the warmth of the welcome we've received, very appreciative of it, and we've been delighted by the opportunity to work with and discuss with colleagues from across the United States about opportunities for collaborative research going forward. I think we have a lot to learn from each other. And then the hospitality we've been shown tonight has been fantastic. A brief insight into what you're doing with regard to your energy sustainability on campus has got our minds going, that's for sure. All of us are educators and are very interested in the ways in which education can lead to a prosperous society and look at the ways for society, economy, and social elements to interact as well as environmental. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Hello, Craig Kuntz. I'm the one from Alaska. I'm a long ways from home and I'm glad to be here. This is pretty cool. I told everybody this morning I'm so glad to be here. I missed my wife's birthday and my kid's birthday. So I'm really glad to be here. I'm also looking for a second home. So I work for utility in Alaska, so a lot of the people that I've spent the last few days with are the people that are developing the new technologies, that some of which don't exist yet. They're developing these new technologies that people like me and small microgrids around the country are implementing. I was extremely impressed with what you guys have going here. Your kind of pseudo microgrid, and then the direction you're headed to become fully a full microgrid. Good luck with that. It's something we do every day. But like I was just explaining on the way in, if we could stop the clock and start over, now would be a great time to do it. We've been building our microgrid for 80 years or something, so we have a lot of old and new mixed in. So good luck, and it's going to be great, the direction you guys are headed. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris White. I'm from one of the Canadian delegates as well. I'm a recent PhD student in Dalhousie University in Halifax on the east coast of Canada. If you'd like a little bit of insight into kind of the projects that we're working on in energy storage, my project is trying to take advantage of the rapidly growing electric vehicle industry and the fact that the batteries that they use typically get recycled when they decline to about 80% of their performance because driving range is so important for electric vehicles. So as I am now understanding that this campus clearly understands that you need storage to use renewable energy, the barrier to that is how expensive energy storage is. So the idea is that if we can repurpose these electric vehicle batteries that are going to be discarded, get them at a discounted price, why not stick them onto the grid and use that for energy storage? So that's what we're working on. So I'm extremely impressed with what I've learned about your campus here tonight, and even just the philosophy of how you run this place is quite touching, actually. So thanks a lot for having us.
Thank you.
Good evening, Charlie Vartanian from the DOE's Pacific Northwest National Labs. My tasking is the promotion, industry-facing, promoting the adoption of advanced technologies. And I'd just like to commend Professor Gomez. Industry adoption starts with education and a well-educated advocate and deployment group. So good work. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matthew Ibaraki. I'm an engineer with the Eugene Water Electric Board in Oregon. We have a couple energy, we're getting just kind of our feet wet in the whole microgrid environment, so it's kind of neat to see the school so progressive and forward thinking. I was really impressed with the sovereignty goals that you guys have and being power independent, food independent, all that. And so, yeah, best of luck.
I think you guys all know me, so I can give you the microphone back.
Well, welcome to Santa Fe, and thank you so much for coming to our campus.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Cervantes.
Yeah, thank you. Taco Wednesday. Okay.
Taco break.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to reports, right? And why don't we have the student government first, since I think you wanted to leave and, okay, so go.
Good afternoon, members of the board, President Cervantes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Noemi Bojorquez Flores, and I am the student government president here at SFCC. First of all, I would like to start off by thanking our President Cervantes, our Vice President, our deans, staff and faculty for supporting us in all we do. We're very grateful. We're also very grateful for you supporting us when we were sworn in at the beginning of the semester. So I would like to start off with, oops, I lost my notes. Here it is. All right, so today, well, the fund request structure has changed a little bit with SGA. So the way it works is, well, the first 6 weeks is for fund requests, and after that we meet bi-weekly, every other week. But the schedule does not fall that way due to holidays and celebrations that are happening. So our main focus is on the days that we don't have SGA meeting in lecture hall, the executive team and senators continue to meet. And this is for us to be able to accomplish more at SFCC rather than focusing on fund requests throughout the whole semester. We do this because we want what's to the best interest of our students. And we believe that working on a project that will benefit our students is one way to begin. So that's that on that one. We got our first fund request today, actually, and it's from Freedom Ambassadors. They're requesting so that they can buy windbreakers for new Freedom Ambassadors that are coming in, which they have a total of 38. And they actually attended our meeting today. They were given permission to attend for about 5-10 minutes to our meeting, and it was pretty amazing to see all these young leaders attending our meeting, and for them mentioning how important it is for them to have a uniform and look presentable, because at one point they want to be in our seats where we're at right now. So that was really inspiring to see how these young leaders are pushing through. Also, today we bought cupcakes. Every Wednesday, last Wednesday of the month, we buy cupcakes to celebrate birthdays at SGA. Our next meeting is October 3rd. And then we have Sam, who's part of the governing board. She attends those meetings. And then we have Frida, who is part of TAC. We will be helping with midterm tables, which is from October 1st through October 4th. We'll be working in collaboration with OSD, all Freedom Ambassadors. And then also there's going to be midterm study night. That is the 8th and the 9th from 5:30 to 8. Also, SGA is going to be part of the salsa competition. We just realized it's 11 to 12. We will be there, but we might have to step out 10 minutes before to catch our SGA meeting. That's happening at noon. Also, we will be part of the Halloween extravaganza that happens every year. This year it falls actually on Halloween, which is pretty exciting. We continue to look for senators for fitness and the School of Fitness and the School of Business. We will also be part of the Long Life Leaders Conference November 9th. We also got new blazers and new shirts to represent SFCC in every event that we do attend. And then also we will be doing tribute to Veterans Week. And lastly, we will be attending once again the ASGA conference in Los Angeles, and we're really excited for this opportunity again, because last year we went and we were really green. We were kind of learning and hearing and seeing what they were doing. We were like, oh my God, this is so scary. But now we have more experience. Obviously, there's 2 previous exec team members, and then there's 2 brand new. So it's a really awesome dynamic to go with those of us who were here last year still, and new ones, so that we can all, they'll go in with fresh minds, so they'll take in information in a different way than we will. So we're really excited. This happens in November, so we're getting there, almost a month and a half. And that's it from my side. I'm sorry I have to step away a little early. I have my national registry exam tomorrow for my EMT.
Okay.
So I'm very nervous. I need to study really hard, and then
Good luck. You'll do great.
Okay.
You'll do great.
Thank you. Any questions?
Okay.
No? All right.
Good, go.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Faculty Senate, we have written reports.
Good evening, Chair Siegel, President Cervantes, members of the board. We're getting into a pretty busy semester. We have a committee that's being headed by Gil Sanchez and Steve Martinez working on our faculty handbook. And at some point, one of the things we'd like to have a conversation about is we have a draft faculty handbook that was written by members of the faculty in the beginning of, I think, 2005. And for some reason, the college didn't accept it. So as we're going forward, I guess we're interested in getting more input on what about the faculty handbook that we wrote before was unacceptable, so we don't propose something, so we don't go down a rabbit hole that's not going to be acceptable. So we're hoping we can get some feedback and advice on what it was about the draft that we have that somehow was not. But I'm looking forward to, we've had a couple hiccups getting this project going, but I'm very confident Steve Martinez and Gil Sanchez will do a great job and help bring all the faculty together on drafting that. Faculty Senate is also working on seeking faculty input into distribution of the elective Common Core objectives. We're working with Shuli Lambden and Colleen Lynch to come up with proposals of, and there's been a few charrettes that we've done with faculty to come up with various proposals of how people think the distribution should go, whether there should be a Common Core across the entire campus, or whether it should be departmental choices, student choices, but we're putting a lot of energy into that as well. The Senate met with representatives from the presidential search facilitators. The discussion was very passionate, but I think it was a very productive meeting. And a number of our faculty members also went to other listening sessions that they had throughout the campus. Adjuncts are expressing some concerns over whether we could do better with adjunct onboarding and training. So we have a project working on developing proposals for improving that. Also desire to restructure the contract signing event. We noticed that the attendance of that is not what it used to be. I remember when I first got here, going into those meetings and it was packed. Maybe it was the spaghetti, maybe it was something, I'm not sure what it was. But we'd like to get attendance up on that. And part of that, the feedback we're getting from our adjunct reps is that it's not as meaningful, that there's a lot of reporting, but what I think most of the adjuncts need is more onboarding training, like a place where they can come to ask questions about how to do their job and get more support rather than telling about enrollment figures or financial situations, which I think especially for our adjuncts is less critical, and we could certainly invite them to the general session if they want to get that. And also we could put that on a Canvas website or something like that for them to look at. There's a lot of concern being expressed about changes to the adjunct contracts and the meanings of the changes. There's a lot in the new contract about various types of safety training that people have to go through, but there's not a clear quantification of what is it they have to go to and how do they demonstrate that they've actually done it. So I think there's a lot of concerns. One of the things that the adjunct faculty have asked for is if there's going to be a change in the contract, that there be some dialogue about what it is and what the objectives are so that they can give input into that. So that is a concern that we'd like to have addressed. And on that, we did pass a resolution at the last Faculty Senate, but that instead of going directly to the governing board, we're bringing that through the Governance Council this Friday, and so we'll have a further conversation about that. In conversations with the Staff Senate over temporaries, we share a lot of concerns about what is defined as temporary at this campus and how that status has been used. Again, we've come up with a resolution that will be moving forward, and I think the Staff Senate and the Faculty Senate have a lot of common concerns about that. We had a long discussion about faculty evaluations, and one concern is the implementation of exactly how that happens seems to vary across campus. Generally, this is very positive, that we have not historically done a great job of holding faculty evaluations, and I think the faculty are excited that that is happening and it's moving forward. Some of the concerns that we've got is the weighting of the student evaluations and actually what percentage of students are filling out evaluations, because faculty have very limited ability to have any leverage to get students to, we don't even know which students have and which students have not filled them out. And also just some of the, in our AQUIP project, the emphasis on student evaluations was measured. And I think it has to be. I know that I was part of the original group that looked at faculty evaluations and the student and the system that we're using right now. And I can tell you that a solid 20% of the raw data I looked at, the students were making geometric patterns on their forms. And so we're concerned that students don't always take it all that seriously. But also we found a lot of our students, especially in developmental classes, simply have a very difficult time understanding how to fill out some of the forms on their own. And obviously the faculty member can't be there helping them fill it out. So we've had some conversations about whether there can be support to help the students in filling out the forms and help to help encourage in some way students to fill them out and get the support the students need to do that effectively. These are just some of the things that were expressed. Some feel that there's more, that right now we're in more of a check the box activity than a meaningful process to improve instruction. And that's, I mean, I know we're working through, this is a kind of a new process, and we're just hoping that we'll have opportunity to adapt and change that. There was an AQUIT project that worked on this that had a number of recommendations, and it doesn't seem as most of the recommendations from the AQUIT project are actually being implemented as part of the review. And again, this is we're going through a first trial run of it from last year, and so we hope that we'll get in the best AQUIT process, that we'll get the feedback and come up and continue to work on improving the process for faculty evaluation. I'd like to offer an invitation to Board Chair Siegel to come to a Faculty Senate meeting. We'd love to have you come. We will not have one in the middle of the month when we have our whole in-service training, but October 5th will be our next meeting, a week from Friday, and then I believe it's November 2nd, but I didn't get to look at my calendar for that. But we'd love to have you come and just kind of have that interaction with the faculty. Sitting in the working session, I can see how the board's impression of the campus is very, very much slanted by executive team perspectives, because that's mostly who the dialogue is with from the board. And that's not a hit on the executive team. I think we have a lot of really great people out there with a lot of great ideas, but it is a criticism of the board that I think there's a need for the board to have more interaction and listen to a broader group of voices than just the executive team. And so I'm hoping Board Secretary or Board Chair Siegel and other members of the board, obviously you can't all come at one meeting, but we'd love to have you come and talk to the faculty and hear what we have to say and hear your perspectives on what's going on here on campus as well. The only thing I want, this wasn't part of my original report, but I do want to say it was Chair Siegel that your response after the public session was concerning. I think it's the move that if we're moving forward on what is the limited legal process as opposed to the best practice for coming up with the best contract, the legal process leads to arbitration from where someone who is not from this campus makes an ultimate decision on how our campus is going to be run. And I really feel that a collaborative process where we continue at the table and negotiate the best contract is really the best step forward. And I would entertain any questions.
Questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Staff.
Thank you, Chair Siegel, members of the board, President Cervantes. In lieu of our regular report, we'd like to read a statement tonight.
Okay.
On Tuesday, September 18th, Associate Vice President for Planning and Institutional Effectiveness, Yash Morimoto, presented the results of the most recent SFCC Ruffalo Noel Levitz Employee Satisfaction Survey to the executive team. We were present for that. These results were also presented in today's work session. Each time for many years that the survey has been conducted, the top concern is compensation. This year's results are no different. The lowest level of satisfaction indicated in this survey is for, I am paid fairly for the work I do, with a 2.68 out of 5 score. 2 years ago, the Staff Senate presented a compensation proposal to the governing board. As a result of that presentation, former President Randy Grissom impaneled and chartered the Staff Senate Salary Committee to explore equitable salary solutions for the college. Recently, the Staff Salary Committee presented a new KPI that was adopted at this year's strategic planning retreat. The KPI, engage employees in the workplace by improving recruitment and retention through compensation, is directly related to the compensation issue. This KPI is focused on recruiting the finest employees by providing compensation sufficient to attract and retain them. To achieve this, we must solve the crisis in salary equity that continues to grow for all employees of SFCC, particularly for staff. This past year, the Staff Salary Committee heard results from an informal compensation study that Dr. Cervantes requested from our former compensation and benefits specialist, Eugene Bermudez. Gene researched 20 representative positions across campus. His research determined that SFCC staff salaries lag at least 20% behind comparable positions within the state of New Mexico. Outside of the state, our salaries lag behind 30% or more than similar positions in neighboring states. The Staff Salary Committee has also learned that the process of filling positions with qualified individuals is increasingly challenging. Because we cannot offer competitive compensation, our finest applicants are not choosing to become employees at SFCC. The Office of Human Resources reported that in the last year, approximately 75% of jobs offered at SFCC went to the third or fourth ranked person selected for the position. The reason that the best qualified applicants choose not to work at SFCC is because we cannot afford to hire them. It is also true that hiring individuals at salaries that are attractive would result in such intense salary disparities within departments that hiring the best and brightest is unattainable for us.
The results from the employee satisfaction survey also bear this out. One of the areas in the survey where we lost the most ground is, my office has adequate staff to perform its functions. We aren't validating the amazing work that SFCC employees do by finding ways to promote them into better positions across the campus. We do not offer a salary that is competitive with our peer institutions or that provides sufficient quality of life for our staff and faculty to sustain within Santa Fe's high cost of living. We do not include cost of living increases in our budgeting process, and so our wages remain stagnant or decrease as we face ever-increasing expenses to the cost of our benefits. Recently, the Staff Salary Committee met with President Cervantes, Executive Director for Human Resources Terrence Donaldson, and Chief Financial Officer Nick Teas to go over these issues. They listened carefully to our concerns. However, their plan appears to be to wait to implement salary solutions until a compensation study is completed. Staff Senate would like to point out that while a compensation study may address salaries for specific positions, it does not appear to us that it would address the overall salary inequities in a timely manner. And this plan has been included in your packet on pages F27 and F28. We ask the board to also remember that faculty have a step matrix that allows for increases based on both longevity and degree completion. There is no comparable matrix for staff. With the exception of this year, there has not been consideration of either raises or cost of living adjustments for staff. When Staff Senate presented the salary matrix models to the governing board 2 years ago, then Chair Linda Siegel stated that if staff identifies solutions for salary inequity, then the board is able to commit to the hard work of identifying the funding for those solutions. Given the success of the mill swap in the recent bond election, it seems that SFCC now has some resources in its operating budget to address these salary issues. We respectfully ask the board to remember this promise. The crisis in salary inequity across the campus continues to grow, and the solutions cannot be delayed any longer. We continue to have difficulty hiring and retaining the most qualified staff. For the 2019-2020 fiscal year, we respectfully urge the board to commit to a specific and substantial funding amount for direct salary equity solutions that can then be applied to staff positions campus-wide. The Staff Salary Committee is committed to continue to work with the college administration on the details of salary equity for all staff across campus. Thank you.
Thank you.
We stand for questions.
Questions?
Can I ask a quick question, and it may be an HR question? Could we look at moving forward numbers? I think that would be really important to add to the research that you guys have done, is turnover rates. So what are our turnover rates, and the comparison of benchmarking it against other institutions as well?
Sure, we'd be happy to work with OHR and OP to provide that information and bring it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've tabled these minutes. We have final reading of the diversity and equity. Did we finish our conversation on that?
Yes.
We did? Okay, then this is a consent agenda item.
Laura to check here.
Are we good?
No, never say you're good without Laura.
Are we good, Laura?
Yes.
I think we finished our changes on that.
Yes, we did.
Do we need a motion?
Could you read them?
Yeah.
Could you put the changes in the record from
Certainly.
what's on the,
Madam Chair, Member Sullivan, the changes to policy 1-24 that were recommended
At the
work session include under definitions, we added a new definition for the word administrator. And that new definition, which doesn't appear in the draft today, that's projected, is administrator for the purpose of college policies refers to those employees whom the president has assigned specific management duties and responsibilities.
And that was the only change, right?
Yes.
Okay.
from what, excuse me, Madam Chair, from what was handed out
Right, yes.
at the meeting?
That was the only addition.
It was only addition, yeah, right.
Okay.
And there was, yeah, that was it.
There were no changes that were presented from the previous board meeting. They were adopted as incorporated.
Can we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move approval of the diversity and equity.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay, we're on to the financial report. Where is Nick?
He's right there.
We went over this at our Tuesday financial meeting, so please be brief.
Well, Madam Chair, excuse me.
Yes.
I wonder if we wanted to hop over to the Siemens report before we go through the non-consent items. It's up to you, of course, but I see we have the Siemens troops here, and just thought might be prudent to do that. Depends on how late they would like to stay.
Looks like it's going to be pretty late.
Looks like 10:30. Is that okay with you?
Why don't do the financials real
Okay,
quick,
yeah.
and then we'll do Siemens.
If that's okay with the board. I mean, thought it'd be good to get that out of the way.
Real quick, as you did say, Madam Chair, we reviewed these financials yesterday, and we also reviewed them with the Financial Oversight Committee on Monday. And so for the report ended August 31st, we are at 17% of the fiscal year complete. If you look at the operating cash balance, we had $5.8 million in our cash account for operating purposes. That's an improvement of $861,000 to the prior year. Tuition and fees revenues down 8%, and that's a total of a decrease of $342,000 compared to the prior year. And local appropriations were up by $10,000, pretty much flat to the prior year. State appropriations from an increase in the legislative appropriation is up about 8%. And in total, ING expenses were up at the end of August by $265,000 to the prior year. and that's really due to 3 payrolls in August. With that, that's pretty much the summary of it. We did talk about the Public Service Fund yesterday, and I did check that deficit in the kids campus area. It's really due to a posting that should have happened in August, isn't going to get posted until September, so it's a timing issue. And the deficit that we looked at yesterday is actually down to about $15,000 in a deficit. So it looks good. And remember, there were 3 payrolls in there for August, so it actually looks on track.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve the financial report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you. That was brief. Okay, come on up, Henry.
Well, thank you, Chair Siegel and members of the board. Thank you for allowing us to present before you this evening. We're really excited. We're progressing quite pleasingly, actually, on the IGA. I'm very pleased with our progress, our status. We're here to give you all a 60% report on our investment grade audit. I've got Mr. William Kipnis here from Siemens, and also Dr. Nazar Al-Kayat, who's also with Siemens. And Naz and Bill have been with us on this project, Bill, maybe since about 2 years, 2 years running. Naz has been on this project since day one as well. So with that, I don't want to steal their thunder. I'm going to turn it over to Bill and Naz and let them give you some insight as to where we are on the IGA. This should be a fairly quick report. We just want to bring you all some highlights on our progress and kind of give you an insight real briefly of where we're headed next. Thank you. And by the way, Dr. Cervantes is very familiar and has been providing us great leadership and has really been in tune with how we're progressing on this project and has really brought the team together with a lot more fortified effort to complete this project. So thanks to Dr. Cervantes for providing her leadership and getting us all motivated to get this project moving. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Bill.
Thank you very much, Henry, Chair Siegel, and board. Very nice to see you all again. I think it was apparent from the visit from the Department of Energy, National Labs, and important project development people to the college today. I think it speaks a lot about the value being placed on hands-on education for the new energy economy. I think it was apparent. I think for sure further evidence of support of what you're doing comes from the National Science Foundation's recent EPSCoR grant of $750,000 to SFCC for a microgrid professor, and also acknowledges the work being done, not just by Henry and Camilla, of course, but staff and faculty here. So we're excited to be part of all that. So quickly, you have a report. Quite possibly, if you're interested in forming a advisory committee as a project moves to completion, that would be great, and to go over details in the report. We'd certainly like to have you. I'm really pleased to have Nazar, Dr. Kayat. He's the senior microgrid architect for Siemens Industries, and so I was very happy to have him on the project. And unfortunately, he wasn't here for the last meeting, so I'm happy to introduce him to you. And who knows, maybe you'll get to know him a little bit better as the project goes to construction. Slide, please. Oh, I do. Oh, I do. All right, then. Should we try it? Think that one? It's nice to have an engineer when you're trying to advance a slide. So a quick recap, as it's been a while. The New Mexico Higher Education Department now requires that higher education go through this process of energy performance contract before it submits requests for capital outlays. Unique to these type of contracts is that the energy savings and energy production are guaranteed by the contractor. That would be Siemens. Critical project goals, obviously, to leverage what you have to go to a regional education leadership role in the Southwest and hopefully beyond, and as well as generating energy, saving money from energy efficiency, and providing this new concept of resiliency to the campus from power outages, which then teaches students the value of a microgrid in things like hurricanes and so forth. Summary of the results at the 60% level, which is not complete. The challenge to us, I think, is to balance the practical requirements of financing a project like this with the sustainability goals, but probably most importantly, how to integrate the needs of the students and especially attracting new students in the future. So on the energy efficiency side, we're working with light, heat, electrical systems, especially infrastructure, energy control systems, building envelope, water conservation, and other things that the project will entail and save the school money. And the microgrid itself, what we are recommending is a fairly large battery energy storage project to add to your solar array, to replace your small backup diesel generator with a cleaner burning and much larger natural gas peaker generator, and the advanced microgrid controls, which of course we've talked about a lot. There is no, even though we would be putting in a gas generator, there would be no increase in GHG emissions in the project. And again, details like this are available, you know, at another time. I'd like to turn it over to Naz now to address an issue that I think has been important to a lot of people in the community, and that is why aren't we adding more solar to the campus? What's the reason for that? Naz, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Bill. The college currently receives its energy supply from P&M on the basis of a tariff which is 4B. That's for large customers, and it's set on the basis of two components. One of them is the energy, which is kilowatt hour. The other one is the demand, which is in kilowatts. 60% or around 60% of the utility charges is dominated by the peak, which is the highest kilowatt value during the month. And that is the major component of the utility bill the college consume. We've run hundreds of cases, but in here is just a summary of the key ones, just to highlight why we ended up zooming in on the preferred architecture or preferred sizing Bill talked about. So if we start with the first row, the college consume about 7.4 million megawatt hour, which is the fourth column from the end, and that is the amount of energy it consumes per year, or as measured in 2017. The peak of that is about 2.6 megawatts. So this is the highest value in the year in kilowatts imported from utility. With solar, this is the existing solar that is about 1.5 megawatts. The large array. Obviously that will offset the utility and provide 39 or 40% of the energy. So that's the major improvement to greenhouse gases, because it's obviously offsetting quite a big chunk of the utility, and it will come down from 7.4 to 4.5 million megawatt hour. Now, it has an impact on the peak demand, and the way the solar array is being sized is having maximum, the college is getting the maximum benefit of that. There is a small import, but we'll ignore it for the purpose of this discussion. Now, Bill talked about infrastructure, energy saving measures we've been looking at. That will reduce the, and I just want you to focus on reduce on the, from 4.5 million to 3.5 million. So that's shaving about 1 million kilowatt hour of the total consumptions. It will introduce a small energy export. It's quite small in comparison with the consumption, but it will obviously, because we reduce the amount of load, the percentage contribution from renewable goes up from 39 to 44%. So this is, this is an important baseline. So guided by a number of, studies and input we had from the staff, we've run studies around what is the impact of adding more solars. I think this is something the college has been interested in, trying to maximize on renewable penetration. The challenge in here is when more solar is added, is not going to be beneficial because solar occurs during the day, and the college has a significant, let's call it off solar period load. So, from 8 p.m. till 6 a.m., there is quite a significant constant load where the solar cannot touch. So just adding more solar, what will happen is it will be exported, and that's what you see in the row highlighted in red. The P&M purchases, it get impacted very small. It goes from 3.5 to 3.4 million, but a lot of the energy get exported. So the thinking is, okay, what do? Can you just add more batteries to capture that energy and then use it when it's needed? The problem is to make it beneficial, the size of the battery has to be very significant, which means quite a large capital investment. So when we looked at the sort of various configuration, one of the things that came out very strongly and attractive from addressing the things about learning and about scalability, about being able to have an impact, is the last row you see there. If we add a battery and a gas generator, we would be able to retain, improve, but from where you are right now on the renewable penetration, so we go from 39 to 44%, but we reduce the peak demand. So peak demand, again, remind you, it's about 60% of the charges. So when we attack the highest sort of cost element, that's the biggest saving you will get. And then we will reduce the P&M purchases. Again, we go from 4.5 or 3.4 down to 2.6. And we believe that configuration will address a number of things, not just delivering saving on the bottom line, but also will provide resiliency. So if there is an outage, the college can be able to sustain operation or sustain classroom activities and campus activity when there is an outage. So with that being said, I hand it back to you.
Thank you, Naz. With the resiliency, of course, is the ability to island Santa Fe Community College from PNM. And that is more than a bragging right. That is a demonstration of where the world is heading and the purpose of microgrids. So, on to financials. This is, again, to remind you, this is a 60% progress report. These are not final numbers. Where we're at today, and we are still working on a number of line items in the project, most of them, in fact. At a $6.4 million project, How will it be financed? Approximately $4.5 million of it can be financed right out of savings and energy generation. So in other words, savings and generation pays the debt service on that amount. 2.2 million roughly would come from state college sources. We think about $125,000 in P&M rebates. Annual energy savings of, and this is in addition to the solar array, of $280,000 in year one. We think that the project debt service will be at about 3.75% with a typical 20-year term. In the years of the project financing, it will be self-funding this way, so not affecting the college's cash flow. And then once it's paid off from the microgrid assets alone, somewhere in the neighborhood of an additional $3 million in positive cash flow over the next 15 years. And that, other than questions, would just conclude the report.
Progress now with finalizing this report and preparing the final analysis from the engineers, and hopefully sometime in November we're going to bring you a 90% report.
Oh, good. I was just going to, I was just going to add that we had a discussion yesterday with Bill and Henry regarding the financing, and we project that the 2.2 million that we're going to need could come from the state GO bond that is going to be voted upon in November. We would get that money next July, and there is an amount there that we think we can use to pay for that 2.2 million.
Yes, Madam President and Chairman of the Board, and Nick's very familiar with this as well. We have $2 million coming for. We have $2 million coming from general obligation bond for plant infrastructure upgrades, and $3 million coming for infrastructure improvements.
Yes.
This could be taken as from part of that funding, and this would serve as an infrastructure improvement. So the funding is there. It's just a matter of the college making a decision on where to appropriate which funding for which projects.
So Martha?
I had a question on the, I think it's a slide before this one.
There it is.
Yeah. The energy sold to P&M on the last one, you add the battery and the generator, is not applicable because we are totally off P&M at that point? Is that how that works?
The microgrid controller will seek to not provide energy back to PNM because the rate is so low that they pay you.
Okay, so what happens to that?
We don't want to overproduce. So what we're doing is we're providing full power to the college through the photovoltaic array. We're supplementing that with batteries, and we don't want to overproduce. So we'll never overproduce power. The microgrid controller won't allow us to. So if we produce more power than we need, we'll go back and store it in the batteries.
I see, okay.
Because we'll need those batteries to operate the campus at night.
So what, you know, I've been reading a lot and hearing a lot about the technology of batteries now. So what kind of batteries are these?
It's lithium technology, which is the most advanced and the highest in energy density and you know, most compact. So this is what we're recommending for this project, is based on lithium technology.
And so, right, I know what lithium are, yeah. But so how big will the battery array?
Oh, so this will be containerized, and it will be approximately, it will be 2 containers, and the container size will be around 20 foot in length. So, you know, like if you think of your standard container, which is 9 foot by 8 foot by 20 foot, that's the sort of dimensions.
Like a semi-trailer, about the size of a semi-trailer.
Yeah. I have another question. Like everything else, though, in 20 years, aren't those batteries going to be obsolete, or in 10 years or 5 years? So
Yeah,
how does that,
Okay, so I mean, they will degrade through use, and we will always, from a control point of view, we'll always try to take this into account. But like being, it's driven or developed over the life of the project. And what we think is what we all know from what's happening in the industry, that the cost of the battery will comes down significantly because it will be used in a lot of other applications. So in the future, it can be, more capacity can be replaced, or it can be replaced, the battery at the end of its life. And by end of life, usually, people think of it as a drop to like 70% of its original capacity, something of that order. So the intent is, as the costs keep going down, and the system that is being proposed will entertain additional capacity or a replacement with a newer technology in 15, 20 years' time or beyond.
An excellent question, I think, by the way. And one of the things that's built into the costs of the project is an annual service agreement of the batteries to maintain their efficiency. And keep in mind that Siemens provides a guarantee that is related to battery performance for the college. I think another key point appears on this slide as the bottom line, and I mean that literally on the slide. The microgrid itself and what's being constructed here provides the college with the capability to expand to, say, 100% renewable production when PNM's rate tariffs catch up with where the world is going. At that time, you probably will be adding to battery storage as well. So this is a step, and it puts you ahead of most of the world. But of course, the project can't answer the challenge of battery longevity and how technology might develop.
Martha?
Well, that was related to one of my questions. I have two questions. One is the question of the lifespan of a battery. So is it, how many batteries will we use in a 20-year period of time?
Well, it's two batteries, but Naz, you wanna? I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, it's from a size based on energy content, it's just under 700 kilowatt hour. And to your point is there are, so the battery degradation is function of number of things, but one of them is what's called shelf life. It's just sitting there, to lose capacity. But the most important one is usage. So the more you use, the more it degrades. But it's all under controlled condition from temperature, from the way it is discharged. So what's been baked into this project is the degradation of battery throughout its life. And like I said, we start with, let's say, a full tank, 100% of capacity, and every year will come down, let's say, about 1 to 2% of its capacity, and we'll keep monitoring this and adjusting for that degradation, that reduction in performance over time. But yeah, so that's. I hope it answered your question.
Well, you really can't estimate. You don't know that.
Oh, well, it depends on, so what we do in our analysis, we take what's been historically has happened in here, which is how the campus was run, how much electricity was used every hour, every day. And we go and simulate that, and we say, if we add battery and generator and solar, what does that do? So we run analysis to give us an idea how the battery will be used, and we use that in our estimation. So And then we apply some, adjustment factors to make sure we take in variability into account. But primarily, that's what we do. We study the way it is going to be used, and we bake this into the sizing, and we also bake in the degradation of the battery into the control.
So what's your estimate?
So we think, we will hit something like around just around 75% in year 13, 14, and then obviously we think to go all the way up to year 20 or beyond. Then we will keep monitoring it and see how it will perform after that. And one of the things we're going to as we talked about, the price of battery is coming down. So replacement of battery in the future versus what it is now, it makes it more attractive to do so by adding more capacity. And I think, this college load in maybe 10 years' time, 15, 20 years' time will change as well. So you add more load, and then we might maybe go back and look at adding more capacity that way.
So my second question is about an environmental factor. What is the disposal of those batteries? What happens to them when they're no longer used?
So end of life, it's a responsibility of manufacturers to recycle those batteries, not as in put them back in, but to try to break them down into the material. The material being used, lithium and aluminum foils and whatever material is being used in the manufacture of the battery cells. So there are places for disposal of lithium batteries, and they like a specialist, and they know how to dispose of this technology.
And what's the cost for that?
So I quite honestly, I don't know what that is, the disposable cost. I mean, it's like your lead acid, AAA battery. It's it goes back and get recycled, and they either extract the material, which is the most expensive part is lithium, and the cells extract that material, and I don't know what is the cost of disposable, but that's something, we can find out for you later.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And with regards to how we're looking for the future of these batteries, we'll probably end up trading them in. We'll get a residual value for the trade-in of the battery in exchange and upgrade to a higher capacity battery. So that's how we would look to trade in those batteries instead, and it would be the responsibility of the manufacturer to recycle that battery.
Thank you.
Jack?
Question I had, of course, by that time, this young gentleman from Nova Scotia that has already left will have it figured out about how we can use the car batteries from the Priuses, so we can do that. But the other question I had, or comment I had was, I noticed, and I'm looking at page F100 of the board, for the board's information, that you're recommending decommissioning the wood chip boiler. And that's recommended now as well as in the preliminary engineering report. What would replace that, a gas-fired boiler?
Short answer, yes.
And so is that is not efficient from a air quality standpoint, or from what standpoint, or just an energy efficiency standpoint? Is what
Well, from an energy efficiency standpoint, the wood chip boiler may be a good tool, but from a cost standpoint and from an emission standpoint, it isn't. In general, it's excellent technology. The key to burning wood or gasifying wood is a location of the asset. They do much better in a forest or next to some type of pellet construction plant where the fuel can be uniform. What's happening here? Well, I'll leave it to Henry to describe the costs associated with the asset.
Yeah, we've researched that question quite extensively, Mr. Sullivan. First of all, the technology for our wood chip boiler is antiquated. Boilers of this style now are built with pellets, and they're built to process pellets as opposed to wood chips. We don't have wood chips in New Mexico. There's no facility that provides them. We don't have a pelletized facility in New Mexico, so we can't buy chips or pellets in this state. We looked at retrofitting this boiler to pellets, and it would cost us more to retrofit it than it would to buy a new boiler. So this particular boiler is antiquated, its technology is outdated. The equipment, the company that manufactured this boiler went out of business, so there are no spare parts. So every time the boiler fails, my staff has to manufacture the parts. The boiler is inefficient in that we can't find wood chips that are dry enough for us to use in this boiler, so we end up drying the chips with our heat rather than heating the campus, and the steam goes right out the stack. So it's not designed for this application, to be truthful with you. It's antiquated, so the actual operation of this costs the college about $30,000 a year just to have a staff member fix this thing every time it breaks. So it's not cost productive to continue to operate this boiler.
It's 15 years old, I think.
It's reached its useful life, and we've already replaced the tubes on it once, and we certainly don't want to do it again. It's just old, and it needs to be retired or put to a lower capacity usage.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And when are you going to start doing that?
We're going to bring you a 90% completion on this IGA, then we're going to go to the state, the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources, Higher Education Department, get approval on this project, and in 6 months, we hopefully will have some funding with the help of Nick and the financing team, and we should see this project underway and completed in a year and a half.
I have one question. Bill, how does the BMTC interface with the campus microgrid?
Well, you all know how to ask questions. So there's going to be a couple of options that we're presenting to Henry, Camilla, and her team on doing that. The greenhouse will have its own microgrid, which we call the nanogrid. And that is a tool for BEAM, which is the Building Energy and Microgrid Automation Training Center. Hello, Camilla. I'm just supporting you. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So the nanogrid becomes this excellent tool for students to, well, let's just say turn on and off. One concept is that the campus microgrid and the greenhouse microgrid share power and demonstrate what is clearly going to be the future of nested and coupled microgrids. So short answer, that's how it integrates to BEAM.
Okay, great, good. Thank you.
George, Kathy? Okay, so we can expect November to...
November. How about November 90% completion, November, December with the state, their third-party engineer who vets all of Siemens' work, checks our numbers and our mathematics and our engineering. I know Naz is really looking forward to that. And higher education department approval as well. And we'll issue assist Nick in issuing an RFP for the best possible financing simultaneously. And we're hoping to ask for approvals of those documents in December for a closing in January and construction in March. That's the hope. That's the dream.
One final question.
Yeah.
One final question. The concept of this whole program was that if it wasn't feasible, Siemens does the study free, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, what does it mean feasible? we need to borrow 3.75%, you know, we need to take out a 3.75% loan. What's the definition of feasible? It's not paying for itself, obviously, because we're having to put capital into it to the tune of $2.25 million. So where do we get the feasible part of it?
Well, here's how it worked. We did a preliminary study on our time to develop to determine that we thought that a combination of state funding or other funding and energy savings could pay for a project that would demonstrate really the first microgrid for higher education of its kind. And so that's what we did our preliminary study so that we didn't put in, which was just about a year of work, and then failed to do that. So we're not very far off from that preliminary study, and I think, you know, that's the answer. So the cost of the microgrid in finality was pretty close to the cost of the microgrid preliminarily, and the number of energy efficiency projects really depends on how the college prioritizes them. We can do more or less of them, but they are self-funding. The only unknown variable, really, not the only unknown, but the big variable was the state of electrical and other infrastructure, which we could only really understand fully when we got into the study. So also during the study, your 5-year facility master plan was conducted, and we had that study. We were able to integrate that. So some of the infrastructure work that isn't in itself energy savings is also included in the project. And the good news on that is it replaces equipment that has to be replaced anyway.
So is what you're saying, this $2.5 million that we're having to come up with in cash, one way or another, some of that is routine repair and replacement that we'd have to do anyway, but some of it, I was under the impression that we were going to save the amount of money that we were going to save over the life of the project would equal the cost of the project. But it looks like we're putting in, you know, $2 million, so it's not quite true.
Well, in the preliminary engineering report, which we produced, and you have, it called for 2 extra sources of capital, which we have confirmed in the 60% report. One was a certain amount in order to make the microgrid assets self-fund. So we did identify that cost in addition to self-funding items in the preliminary report. And the second was that there was clearly going to be a need for electrical infrastructure upgrades, which is best demonstrated, you know, by tour of them themselves. So that amount turned out to be higher, but the college did not have a one-line electrical diagram for us to see preliminarily, and we had to, on our own expense, produce one to complete the study. So those 2 were identified preliminarily as what would be needed to accomplish the goals, and that was confirmed in the 60%.
So basically, the bottom line is we have to pay off a $2.5 million loan over a 20-year period, and then after that, we would reap $3 million a year in savings. Is that what your charts basically say?
The chart would say yes. There's a certain amount of the project cost that would be self-funding, and a certain amount that would be funded from other sources.
Okay.
But if we get the $2 million from the state, then that's done.
Yeah, but Nick is talking about bonds. He's talking about bonds.
State bond.
The
No.
$2 million is the state GO bond. We don't pay that back.
No. Yeah, but if that weren't used for this, that could be used for something else.
Right, yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, but we would be using it over the next 20 years to buy boilers and chillers and the infrastructure that we're replacing now.
Yeah.
With this, so it's either replace it now or replace it over time.
I guess what perhaps we could see in the 90% report is how much of the college's capital improvements are are things that we would have to do anyway. Versus things that are associated just with these efficiency.
We will
upgrades.
certainly be able to do that.
Yeah.
Certainly.
That would help. Yeah, we don't want to pull them out. We want to do. No, we want to do maintenance. That's the worst mistake you can make, is not to maintain your facilities. But for the purpose of the study and the purpose of the contract, I think we want to see that these non-routine upgrades, as we might call them, are separated from the upgrades that you are identifying as a result of your detailed study.
100% an agreement, and in fact, the state and its third-party engineer will also demand that we do that. So that will be transparent in the report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you in November.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay,
being here.
Nick, you're back.
Bring money.
Bring money.
This endowment report,
We're going to do the endowment report?
yep, that's next.
Okay. Madam Chair, board members, President Cervantes, we have the endowment report in front of you. This is another required document that also requires signature from the board and approval from the board to just determine the amount of funding that we have in our accounts from the appropriation for SFCC's endowment. The total amount, as we reported last year, has not changed. It's $697,000, and that's what we are going to request that the board approve this year so we can submit it back to HED.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve this? We discussed it at the Finance Committee meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Report of actuals for 218. We also discussed this at the Finance Committee.
We did, Madam Chair, board members, and President Cervantes. We have to report this report of actuals, which is basically a presentation of actual financial activity compared to budget. And the report is essentially broken down into two parts. The first exhibit talks about the high level funds of the institution and kind of aggregates all of them. And of course, these numbers are unaudited. If you take the most important thing to take away from the Exhibit 1 is that in total, you'll see in the report, our actual revenues were $41.6 million, and our actual expenses related to that were 40.6. And so there's a positive net income, if you will, of $1 million there. So the good news is we came in on budget in that, from that perspective of the institution's financials. Exhibit 2 is, to me, a little bit more important because the way that we have to maintain budgetary control and come within the budget are in terms of our separate exhibits, meaning Exhibit 10, which is instruction, Exhibit 11, which is academic support, 12, student support, 13, institutional support, and 14, Exhibit 14 is the plant operations and maintenance. And in summary, the good news there is that the actual revenues beat our budget by about $400,000. So that's really good news, primarily due to local appropriations coming in higher. Expenses related to those revenues came in under budget. And the end bottom line really showed that our fund balance total, which is the net between revenues and expenses. Transfers are also included in there, but ultimately fund balance was about $2.3 million, and we had budgeted an expected fund balance for the end of FY18, we expected to have a fund balance of 1 million. So our actual fund balance beat that projection by about 1.3 million. So that's really good news to the college.
Okay.
That's it in summary.
Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
At a future date, I have the information that Member Keith asked for, so we can talk about that maybe next.
Is that something you want tonight? What was that information? About what?
Number of FTEs?
Yeah, it had to do with the number of
the
FTEs in the
difference.
report. Yeah, and the difference is,
You better tell us now, because we'll forget.
yeah, let me just try to put this into perspective. The number that is generated in this report is, of course, the number of FTEs that are very straightforward to the institution, meaning staff members, full-time equivalent employees. Those are easy to account for, but then we also have to sort of aggregate our budgeted amount for adjuncts compared to actual total student credit hours, and derive a sort of an estimated full-time equivalent amount for those adjuncts. So it's not a specific dollar amount, or a specific employee total. It has more to do with just what we ultimately expensed for the adjunct, function of the college in terms of total student credit hours. So it's a bit of an estimate. So, and it's really a little bit of an antiquated way of making that calculation. It's just the way we've had to report it to HED. And so internally we can actually get those exact numbers for, all of the adjuncts. Ultimately, not all of them teach what would be a full-time equivalent amount. So it is pretty much a bit of an estimate, but it's based upon the actual expenses for adjuncts and total student credit hours. I hope that helps.
So that's the discrepancy for the numbers?
Well, that's the amount that you see in the report, which is about 500 full-time equivalent. It's really the discrepancy. So we know that we have about 270 so full-time staff people. It's fair to say that the difference is those adjuncts that are.
We have 60 full-time in faculty or so?
Correct. Yeah. 80
full-time faculty, and then we have these adjuncts, which you can't really add them together and get the right number. Is that what you're telling us?
Well,
you're telling us the formula for that is?
The formula for that is funky,
Yeah.
ultimately. So, yeah, we have to generate a full-time equivalent amount for adjuncts based upon how much we spend for adjuncts and how much total student credit hours turns out for the year. So,
Does that answer your question?
I think so. So the difference between the 470, which is what we budgeted for, and our actual, which was 502 number of FTEs, is all adjuncts.
that is correct. So we had the budgeted expected amount, but of course we bring in more adjuncts depending on the number of those courses that they teach. And so that's the actual compared to the budget, really.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not clear, but it's a little bit of a funky kind of.
Is that the requirement of HED about how you get that number?
That's right, yes, yeah.
Okay. Say no more. Okay, approval of plant infrastructure, office building services, upgrade capital projects.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board, President Dr. Cervantes. Thank you all for allowing us to present this project before you this evening. I won't take much of your time on this project. It's pretty straightforward. This project has been postponed a couple times, most recently in lieu of the public address system. We postponed this project to complete the public address system, so this project has now come forward. It's included in our strategic plan, it's included in our master plan, and it's also included in our HED 5-year institutional plan. So I'll go, if you will, just kind of briefly through our project request. This is the forms that we will submit to HED. We'll see down at the end here that this project is about $495,000. It's under the $500,000 threshold at HED, so it will be reviewed by HED staff rather than the HED committee. So it's pretty straightforward. This particular project is for the renovation of the SFCC plant operations area up to 2,500 square foot. The title of the project is the FCC Plant Infrastructure Office and Building System Upgrades. It will include the infrastructure, the office and building systems upgrades. We're going to design, construct, renovate, furnish, and equip the plant operations shops, offices, and storage areas.
So where is that?
It's physically on the backside of the bookstore, adjacent to the warehouse. So we've got about 2,500 square foot back there. This project will do a number of things for the college. It will upgrade our plant operations area, which will increase our workflow area. It'll provide us a greater workstation space. It'll give us better access to our building automation systems, which we have to kind of maneuver right now to get a computer to look at to operate our building automation systems. And it will also provide us ADA upgrades to our bathroom. We do not have an ADA accessible bathroom in our area, and it will also cover the insulation. We have walls with exposed insulation. These are all code violations. So this will eliminate those code violations. This project is, go to page 7 on your forms. It's $395,000 construction It's $395,000 construction costs. There's a $30,000 contingency, $37,500 for the architect. By the way, we're using Hoops Architects, a Santa Fe firm. They actually have reviewed this project and given us these estimates, so they are fortified estimates. The total project cost is going to be $495,453. And with that, I'll stand for any questions. This project is paid for by the 2016 GOB, $466,182, and the 2016 SOB, which was specifically given to us by the state to design this project, is going to participate in $29,291, so a total of $495,000.
Okay. Any questions?
What, Madam Chair,
Yes.
what was the construction cost?
$395,000.
Just a minute.
10% is that contingency. That's where we get the.
Yeah.
So is the architect one of those that are on the list that we can just go to without doing an RFP?
Yeah, and we're working with Nick in the procurement office. These architects are CES, GSA, and the contractor will either have a state contract or will be GSA or CES.
So
we won't be
Or
going
we'll go out
to
for
bid.
RFP, whichever's the best value on this
Okay.
project.
So that comes out to about $158 a square foot. Does that sound
That's pretty reasonable.
reasonable for renovations?
175 to 200 is typical for renovations, so we're a little cheaper. We're not doing a very big job here. Pretty much flooring and walls.
Originally, hadn't this project cost like $200,000 more, and you were able to bring down the cost?
Yeah, if we were actually going to add some additional square footage on this project, not new construction, but we were going to take existing square footage and include it in our project. We downsized this project because we wanted to take our money and have it go a little further. So some of the funding we used to downsize this project we'll use later on for the wastewater treatment upgrade. So we actually downsized this from a $600,000 to a $495,000 project.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Now we're
Thank
on
you.
to the discussion of the presidential profile, which we have here before us, and can you explain
Yes.
how we got this?
Okay. So first of all, let me offer and recognize the people who really, our staff people who've really been critical to this project. First of all, Terrence Donaldson, who chairs the search committee, and who I hear did an excellent job in the very first meeting that we had, and we got a tremendous amount of work done, and we're able to bring you as a result the profile search that you were sent on the 24th. Donna has been great about keeping track of all the changes that the PSAC wanted and incorporating those into this profile. Todd, who has helped tremendously with the pricing, and I'll distribute this report has two parts to it. It's the profile and the cost. So let me just pass that around, and we'll talk about that secondly. So the profile initially was, we had talked about a brochure. The consultants have said that brochures have become obsolete and are no longer useful. That what happens is that most profiles go online, and so people can get a lot more information than they used to be able to get from brochures. And then they're also available for distribution if people want to, but usually they send them out, or there's a website, right. There'll be a website on the ads to get copies of the profiles. So they're able to put a lot more information down than they used to be able to do.
And it's
so,
cheaper.
Yeah, and it is cheaper. So the first section is all about the college, and we have the PSAC made some pretty good suggestions about changes in language and additions in additions that they felt were really important to demonstrate who we are and what we do. Then there's a section on the campus. And you'll notice that on all of these there are websites that people are referred to. The values that are in our plan, a little statement about the strategic plan, about our accreditation, and then a section about Santa Fe itself. And that caused some interesting conversation apparently with the PSAC, correct, Terrence, about how do we describe Santa Fe?
A unique place.
And then, yeah, at some point, I think the word was magical, and the PSAC said, no, we're not magical. So that got changed. The leadership agenda and what we expect, and then the qualifications, there was quite a bit of discussion about the qualifications, but ultimately the group, Terrence was able to get the group to come to consensus about this. So we list a long series of desired qualifications, which the consultants also looked over and made some suggestions to us, because they said this is really what will be used by the PSAC to evaluate applications. So it's really important that these are in. I've sort of cross-checked that with the conversations that we had at our last meeting about desired qualifications. Some of those are in here. Maybe not in the same language, but they're in here. Some of them, the consultants tell us, are better described when they talk with candidates, because they don't want to preempt some of the conversation that might come up either in interviews or in the PSAC interviews or in our interviews. For example, risk-taking was one of them. They felt was better. First of all, it was very hard to say how, from evaluating an application, how do you say this person's a risk taker? So it was better to.
But this says innovator and prudent risk taker.
Yes, but it's so anyway. Careful. Well, that was unique to this committee. So that is the profile that we are asked to approve today with all the corrections that have been made. Do you have any questions about this portion first?
The qualifications?
Any of the profile.
Any of it.
I've got questions.
Okay.
So will you, I know you said this, but I'm going to ask it again. It's after 9 o'clock, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand.
So this, that we're looking at, the presidential search profile, is basically a part of the job ad that goes out, and then when they click on this, it's a separate website that lists all this information?
It'll be on our website.
Okay.
Have a link to our ad, the ads that we actually place, and then it will also be sent out if it needs to be sent out.
Okay, so it's kind of like a white paper almost,
Yeah.
with a lot more information. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I had two questions, well, three. One I asked already in the work session. But what happened to the criteria that we developed? This is my first question. We had about 5 or 6 bullets, and I think you mentioned one of them about risk-taking, and I think we had a limitation of minimum 5 years experience, or there was some minimum years, and but I know we developed, and I couldn't find it in my notes. Where did all that go?
If you look at, I looked at it it's in the minutes that we tabled today.
Okay.
And some of those are in there, maybe not with.
Maybe I did see it.
Maybe not with the exact wording that we had.
Yeah.
But they are in there. And some of them we left out because the consultants felt that that was not something that they could, that was either not something that they could use as a criteria for saying, this is how you evaluate this application, or it was something that was better left to be discussed with semifinalists and finalists when we have interviews. So they will become a part of the questioning in the interviews. And your other question?
Yeah, I'm looking at C2. We said a master's degree from an accredited institution of higher learning with a PhD preferred. Now we're saying a PhD or a terminal degree. So we don't. What happened to the master's degree?
Terminal degree could be an.
It could be a master's, but it necessarily.
A terminal degree is the kind of master's that the PSAC thought we needed to have. And those are MBAs, MFAs.
Yeah. But you can get a master's degree that's not a terminal degree.
That's correct.
So we've eliminated the master's degree qualification.
I don't remember us ever talking about just a regular master's.
Yeah, that was one of the bullets here in the minutes are pretty close to what we had come up with.
Yeah.
And the next one was 5 years of administrative experience at a college, community college, communicate effectively with elective governing board, outstanding experience in systems management, develop knowledge and commitment to diversity, and commitment and accountability to open communication, student, faculty, and staff. So.
I see some of those there.
Yeah, some of those are there. Some of them, you know.
This looks like a lot of bullets to me. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There's 20 of them. So the review committee has got to have a matrix of 20 different characteristics that they have to score, right?
That's correct.
Boy, that's tough business. That's
a tough job.
Yeah, I've been on review committees, and when you get more than 5 or 6 or 7, I mean, you're just sticking numbers in boxes. You know, you just don't know what to say. And a lot of times they're duplicative. They're you know, what one says is fairly similar to another one. I mean, fostering collaborative relationships is similar to a leadership style that's transparent, open, available, and congenial.
They will have to make those judgment calls. That's part of why we have a PSAC that is so skilled.
Well, I don't. They're volunteers, and we appreciate their service, but we don't want to put something in front of them that's
I thought they did
complicated.
this.
They did. And you know, I think the consultants will manage all of that.
Well, we just seem to.
I understand.
It's just been constantly a rubber stamping event here, and with the bottom line always being that the consultants will take care of it. At some point in time, the governing board of Santa Fe Community College has to have some input into who they're going to hire as a president.
That's
And
right.
I haven't seen that input reflected yet anywhere in the RFP that we put out or in this profile. My second question is, I think we're gilding the lily here under utility of purpose on that same page. We say that the institution has had fluctuations in enrollment like other institutions and resources, and the necessity for increased efficacy and efficiency in leadership. I don't know what in the good Lord's name that means. I mean, I think we need to be straight up and give them our enrollment numbers over the last 2 or 3 years and say, you know, they know that other schools are having the same problems, but give them the numbers. Say, look, you know, this is one of the challenges that the president is going to have to deal with is enrollments. But fluctuations, I haven't seen any fluctuation. I've seen a steady decrease. I think this is gilding the lily. I'm a little disappointed in this, to be honest with you. That's my comments. I think that needs to be improved considerably, and I think the characteristics could be compressed down to maybe 10 or 12 and say the same thing.
So, once again, one of the reasons that all of these links to the websites are available is the expectation that a serious candidate will go through and will look at, okay, so it says there have been fluctuations in enrollment. What were those? And go back and look at the websites that have that data. So, you know, it's not, we can't give them everything that they should do as part of their homework.
Do we have a website that shows that? I don't think so.
Yes, we do.
Where is it, Yosh?
Where's the website that shows enrollment, and where is it on this profile?
I can't speak to the profile, but it's on our Fast Fact web pages. So every fall enrollment numbers are on there.
Which web page?
Fast Facts.
Fast Facts.
Yes, sir.
Which is right on the main website.
Yes.
And it says Fast Facts.
Not on the front part of the, yes, there's that one and another one that talks about that Fast Facts. And so Todd and I have been talking about making sure the Fast Facts are all there.
Where's the enrollment?
So, if I may.
Yeah, just click on it.
One of the things we have to keep in mind of is that if we do not approve this tonight, with whatever changes you want to make to it, we are really getting behind in recruitment. Because if our deadline is November 17th, is the deadline for applications, and that still brings us up to April in terms of when we would have candidates here. If we put that off for another month, it just means, once again, that we're pushing that. We've already pushed the deadline a year out. So that's one of the problems.
I'm not in favor of delaying things unnecessarily. We just got this yesterday, and it wasn't in the book ahead of time. And it's probably the most important decision that I'll be involved in as a board member during my term. I just get nervous about that. Okay, we're looking at enrollment now. Okay, fall 215, 216, 217, female, Hispanic, Latino, etc. Where does it show the credit enrollment?
At the top.
Up at the top.
So you can see the decline.
Yeah, that's not 8%, that's for sure. It's not showing the semester decline. What is so important in any statistics is not the average, but it's the rate. It's the rate of decline. And that's what concerns me more and more each semester, is that our rate of decline is increasing. And if we just always had an average 2% decline, we could say, okay, we can deal with that. But our rate of decline is increasing from 3% to 8% per semester.
Any of us think we can deal with continuing decline of enrollment. We're going to be out of business in so many years if we don't
Exactly,
address
and we're going to get a president that's going to have this this challenge in front of him or her.
Well, but it's important, Jack, to recognize that in this country now, an 8% decline every semester appears to be common throughout the country. If a candidate needs an education about what's happening in higher education, we are not going to provide that.
They should.
We are going to provide some information about Santa Fe Community College. They will have to bring with them some knowledge about what's happening in the country, and will have to dig deeper on any issue that concerns them. And we will have an opportunity, the board members will have an opportunity to speak to these candidates, and we can raise with them questions about unions, about graduation rates, all those things we can raise with those candidates. And this document is simply something that will bring candidates in to be considered. It's not a final document that closes everything off.
How do you respond to personal integrity? What are you going to say? I'm really not one of the most integrity-oriented people that you want to hire, but I'm really good at the other 19 items.
But that's what you find out by doing checks, by sending someone to the campus, by doing those things that.
By getting references, etc.
That's why the kind of answers they give. I mean, we had that in the last presidential search committee. There were several of us who said, there's some lack of integrity here because this person doesn't tell the truth.
Right.
And there were people on that committee who knew that we didn't have a truth teller.
And I think, Jack, you're pointing out that this is an extremely complex process, and I think all of us would totally agree with that. And how to make it less complex is really a challenge. And I don't know how you do it. I mean, the other day I think you remarked something about this document, this profile, was a lot of information. Well, indeed, it is a lot of information. But now you're kind of suggesting, well, maybe more information would be good. Well, I think that there are limits as to what we can present in this document, and I think we have to assume a certain amount of knowledge on the part of the candidates and a certain amount of capacity for them to ask questions and say, hey, you guys said there were fluctuations in enrollment rates. What was that all about? We tell them. You guys didn't tell me about the union business. Fine, we'll tell you.
But any candidate who's coming here is going to research. They're going to they're going to Google, they're going to see every newspaper article, they're going to go on our website, they're going to collect data and information, they're going to talk to their colleagues who might know something about us. The good candidates who really want to come here, they're going to know about us before they walk in the door. Because that's what you do when you're looking to be a president.
So I want to talk a little bit about the advertising budget that I just put together because we just found this out.
Can I just make one minor comment about the search profile document. I saw in here earlier the term intercultural, and I also saw the term multicultural. I think that probably multicultural is a more appropriate term. I couldn't find it right now where the intercultural appears.
I'll Google that. I agree with you. Multicultural is what was intended. So if
Okay.
you said intercultural.
There are two places that intercultural appeared.
There it is, intercultural competence on the list. What does that mean?
No, it meant multicultural. That was a typo.
On the characteristics.
In the bullet.
And that went from tricultural, I believe, right, Terrence, to multicultural.
Incorrect.
So, okay, so on the suggested advertising budget, we have a letter that Ken gave us earlier that basically said that they would recommend that somewhere in the neighborhood of 550,000. And then Eric sent me a list of what.
550?
What did I say? 500? 5,500. Did I say 500?
Yes.
I'm sorry. 50. It's late. I go to sleep at 9:30.
You already heard about the 500,000. We don't need another one of those.
Right.
All right. This, I went through and looked at these and made some wild stab at it, and then I talked with Eric about this as well. So if we were to approve this tonight, it'll go on the website probably on Monday, on their website, and could about the same time go on our website. That would give us about 60 days to the time for the deadline, November 17th. So in the Chronicle for Higher Ed is $395 for 60 days. These are online. They recommend that we not do a print ad. The print ad costs $3,000 for the Chronicle of Higher Ed. And what they said is what they're discovering with their candidates is that hardly anyone ever uses print material now to find jobs, that they're really using all the various online sources. Inside higher education, there were three possibilities. There was the possibility of what they called a standard, which is what we decided on. There was a enhanced, I guess they called it, which meant that, they didn't call it enhanced, they called it promoted, which meant that they would have pictures and that kind of thing in the ad. And then there was one with a diversity focus, which was the most expensive. Eric suggested that we could go with the standard and then do the diverse jobs, which comes later on, which reaches more people. So that's at $349. Higher ed jobs, Hispanic outlook, women in higher ed, the higher ed resources, the HERS project is, and you'll notice that women in higher ed is only 30 days, so we would probably do that probably mid-October. Higher ed resource, the HERS resource service is 40 days, huh?
40 days for no cost?
For no cost, yeah. Diverse jobs, what they told me was that has all of the other websites embedded in it. And so that was a very important one for us to do. Association of Community Colleges, I think we all have to do. And that's for 90 days, which goes beyond our website, but that's okay. The Community College Week is one that practically every community college professional looking for a job reads, so that's an important one. And so that total online cost would be $2,500, $2,524. Local print advertising, Todd and I talked about this. The New Mexican for a quarter page ad that would run 2 Sundays would be $2,400. The Santa Fe Reporter, which we would run only 1 week, would be $800. Todd says they can do a social media campaign for as long as we need it for about $300. So that gives us an additional $1,340 that we need.
$1,340?
Pardon?
Just for the.
Oh, wait, to
If you
2,400.
add 2,400 and 800 and 1,500,
You're right.
It comes to a lot more than that.
It comes to a lot more than that. You're right. Thank
Comes
you.
out to 35.
Yeah.
So we're about at the 55.
Yeah. The Albuquerque Journal is one that we want to talk about. Do we want to enter that? That requires a, kind of the biggest city newspaper. And so that is $2,000 a shot.
For a Sunday?
Well, that's all correct. You just end up paying more for that publication because we pay Metro rates instead of our kind of.
Is that a quarter page, or is that?
These are all quarter page prices, I believe.
And the Los Alamos Times, which we had also talked about earlier, is $600 for one printing.
Who is going to look in the Albuquerque Journal for a higher ed job? I just don't see it. I think we have to do the Santa Fe, New Mexican because it's our town. But I just don't see the Journal having any value, or the Los Alamos paper.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Martha, what kind of, is there any other distribution that Academic Search does other than this? I mean, is this the only distribution?
Well, as they discussed with us before, they have a network of folks that they connect with, both in terms of looking for nominations, which is a standard process in higher ed, especially for presidencies, and then colleagues that they work with.
Okay, so it's basically a social network that they use.
The other thing that I know that they do is they go to every major community college conference out there. And they go for the specific reason of looking for people. So, yeah, this is who they recommend that we use. So really, it is $6,000.
Right.
$6,024. So, those are the two decisions before us. And it sounds like the rest of you agree that the Albuquerque Journal is not something we need to do. I don't know, does that include the Journal North?
It does. I think with the Journal, you're just paying for a lot of people to see it who may not be our target audience in this instance.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is,
I move to accept both documents.
I don't think this is this an action item? I can't.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries. Okay. Can we have a, let's see, we have announcement of the board meeting on October 24th, board retreat the 26th.
No, wait a minute.
Oh, discussion of retreat agenda, we did that already?
No. Tab G.
Tab G.
We got some first readings.
Yeah, but we usually don't.
Okay, that's right.
do any-
Excuse me. We just have those out there.
So we're gonna have some amendments or changes to our
Revisions, yeah.
retreat, and then just send it out to all of us.
Okay. But we don't have to make decisions on that, do we?
No.
That was just conversation.
Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor, aye. Thank you all. Thank you all for staying.